Joe Rogan Podcast, check it out.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
Train by day, Joe Rogan Podcast by night, all day.
Hello, Todd White.
How are you doing,
What's
my
up,
friend?
buddy? Dude, you're one of the reasons why I'm here. I remember you told me multiple years ago, how many years ago did you move here?
I moved here 7 years ago.
And you were telling me how fucking great it is. I remember running into you. You're like, dude, it's fucking great. I love it. I'm like, man, I don't know.
You said my wife would never move there. That's what you said. We were at the Commons at
in
Marmalade.
Calabasas.
Yeah, in Calabasas.
Yeah. Well, dude, I've known you for, what, fucking 20 years?
Yeah. So
I probably met you in like 2000-ish or something like that. Maybe before.
The day you walked into John Jacques, I was on the mat and we were rolling, and you came walking in, and I was a fan of your first show you ever did, and I saw you and I go, oh shit, that's Joe Rogan, and my friend says, who's that? I go, he's on a show, he's on news radio, and he goes, I don't know who that is, and I go, yeah, he's the
handyman.
He's a mechanic. He's always running around with this toolbox, and he goes, I don't know who he is, and I go, okay, well. And then that was the first time I ever saw you, and you came in.
That's like 98, dude. I
Yeah,
think it's like
that was about. I was a
Yeah.
white belt, and
Yeah. John Jock spot in Tarzana.
yeah,
Yeah.
I saw the. I was working at Warner Brothers, Tiny Toon Adventures, and I was a PA, production assistant at that time. It was the first job I ever had in LA, and a guy says, hey, we're going to have a party tonight. We're going to watch these fights. They're like cockfights. Come on over and let's watch them. And I went over to his house, and I was literally hypnotized watching Hoist Gracie do what he did. I couldn't believe it. Everybody else was talking.
Like 93?
Yeah.
Their first days
The very
of UFC?
the first UFC. It was the first one.
Wow. So you watched the first one live.
Yeah, I saw it at a party that I was not supposed to be at, and nobody else was paying attention to this. It was just on. There was like two other guys watching it, and I'm watching this going, oh, I got to do that. Like it was speaking to me in a way I've never, like art speaks to me, and I was watching it, and the next day I find Torrance Gracie Academy because they kept saying Torrance Gracie, and I knew where Torrance was. So I was living in Studio City in the Valley. I had a Honda Prelude. I drove all the way on the 405, the worst freeway in the world, and it took me about 3 hours to get down there on a Saturday morning. And I walked into that place, and they were done, but I could smell all that sweat and humidity and nastiness, and I was like, oh God, this is great. And I walked in, and they were very nice to me, but there was like these dudes, and they looked so intimidating, and they were just ripped up and clawed up and dripping wet. And this wasn't the pretty days where everybody has rash guards and designer gis. This was like Krugen's gis.
Yep. They
were yellowed and nasty smelling, and there was chest hair in your mouth.
I remember Krugen's.
And they came walking out, and I was just like, I felt like a little bitch. I was just looking at him going like, I want to be you. And he goes, oh, where are you from? And I go, oh, the Valley. The Valley? This is too far, my friend. And he goes, my cousin John Jacques is in the Valley. The Machados go there. And I was kind of like struck in awe by everything, right? So I thought, okay, I'll go to the Valley, And there was no internet. Understand, there's no internet. You can't just Google. So I got the Thomas Guide out, and I started looking around, and I would ask people. And so nobody knew the answer to this, because remember, as you know, in the early days, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu was like, oh, you do that karate stuff?
Yeah.
And so I got on my mountain bike. I was a heavy mountain biker then. And I got on my bike, and I was in Studio City, and I decided to ride Ventura Boulevard. And I'm going to look at every shop on Ventura Boulevard. And I was driving. I got all the way down to Encino, and I see this jiu-jitsu, right? And I go, oh, that's it. I walk in, and this little kind of chubby round guy comes walking up and is tucked into his gi, and he goes, how can I help you? And I go, I'm looking to do that ground fighting stuff. And he goes, yeah, we do that here. And I go, okay, sign up. And so I signed up. And I'm there a week, and I'm there every day. And not once are we on the ground. We're doing this stand-up, small circle stuff. And I'm looking at my classmates, and they're all like horribly out of shape, and like they can barely move. And I'm thinking, God, this isn't what I saw.
What was the place?
It was like Mushin Ryu Jiu-Jitsu, right? But I was so out of my head trying to find it. And so I'm there a week, and he's like, hey, congratulations, you get a belt. And I'm like, I hardly know anything. And so he gives me this belt. And I'm working out with this one guy, and he says, hey, I think what you want is the Machados. And I was like, where am I? He goes, this isn't it, dude. And I'm like in the wrong movie. And so I go, okay. He goes, that's down the road, dude. Like 4 shops short, right? So I literally at class, I'm like hurrying up and I'm like, I gotta go. And I walk down there and I see them. And this is on Ventura Boulevard. He wasn't at his place in Tarzana yet. He was getting ready to move that week. And I walk in and it was a place as big as this studio. I'm not kidding. And he goes, Jean-Jacques spoke very poor English back then. And he was like, oh, hello. And I'm like, sign. I sign up now, And so I signed up and I started going to him. But I had made like 2 friends. When in LA, I didn't have any friends because I was there to work and become my goal. And so I was still talking to these guys and still going to the other place. And the time worked out where he was early and I would leave and go next door to Jean-Jacques, right? So I was there about another week. And we're just doing drills at Jean-Jacques. We're doing armbar drills over and over again from our back, from open guard drills. And I would go home and I would draw it in my book. I had a sketchbook of everything. So everything we learned, I would draw it and I would, I was an animator for a long time. So I could animate the movements and I could see in rolling where we would end up. So if we start here and I did this, this, and this, I knew we would end up over here in this position. In my mind, it was easy because I had to animate it. So I would see rolling like cartoons and they would just kind of roll into it. And so it came I wasn't a wrestler, but it came pretty natural to me, to the movements, right? And so, so a week later, the guy at the Mushinru Jiu-Jitsu place was telling me, oh, you got to do this. And I go, but if you did that, you'd get stuck in an armbar. Because he's having me like choke, like reach up. And he goes, no, you can't get an armbar from there. And I go, I think you can. He's like, you're not going to do it. And so I go, well, watch. And he got in my guard and he did his little chest slap thing, those little like, and he like stuck his arm out.
What is the little chest trap?
Yeah, you know how they like get ready to fight and they're like, they do their poses.
No.
And he did that in my guard. And it was weird and everybody's watching, right? And they're standing there watching the instructor tell me I didn't know what I was doing. And he did that and he stuck his arm out and I grabbed his arm and I pulled it in and I threw my legs over his face and I armbarred him. And he got real pissed off. And he got up and he was really perturbed and he goes, that wouldn't work in real time. That only worked because I was letting you get there. And I was scared and I go, I think it would work, man. I think it would work. And remember, I had 2 friends now, right? My 2 guy friends, right?
Right. I think it would work.
And they were going, and I hear one of them go, oh no, it worked. And I'm looking around him, and he's getting kind of pissed. Man, he's a short guy, but he was really stocked. And he goes, look, I'm tired of hearing about this Brazilian jiu-jitsu. So I tell you what, you use your jiu-jitsu, which by the way, I had like 2 weeks of training. Now, granted, I was there every day with Jean-Jacques, like doing drills. So, if you got one movement that you do 100 times, you're going to have an inkling of how to do it.
What year is this?
Bro. So you're talking about
94?
Right after the first UFC, maybe like
93?
2 months after the first UFC.
Oh, so the 93.
Yeah, 93.
Damn,
and so
you were ahead of the curve.
So I'm sitting there and I go, okay, I think it'll work, dude. Now I don't know anything about standing, right?
Right.
So he gets up and he goes, okay, I'm gonna attack you, and you attack me, and I'm like, I don't know how to attack you. So he goes, ready, and like all of a sudden I'm in a video game. I'm standing there. So what do? I copy what I saw Hoist Gracie do. I stick my arms up like the Karate Kid, and I stick my foot in front, and he fucking starts like coming at me with his elbows and swinging, and he looks like a little machine. And I just took my foot and kicked him in the front leg. His leg goes down. He lands on me. We fall into the guard. He starts hitting me with his elbow on the top of the head, right? Like I grabbed him, I clenched him, I squeezed him really tight, mostly so I didn't get punched in the face because I was afraid. And I took my head in his chest, and he's hitting me on the top of the head, and I'm like, and that heat comes up your back from your butthole to your neck, and you go, you motherfucker, you're hitting me now? And I go, okay, all right, now we're in a new league. Now you're not my friend. Now you're fighting me. And I literally just kind of monkey shimmied up his high guard, and I just threw him in an armbar, and I cranked as hard as I could on that arm, and he screams, okay! Wow. And I get up, right? And I'm like, you got that blood rush? I'm like, hair messed up. I'm like, you motherfucker. Okay. And I grab my bag I grab my bag, my little fucking goofy bag. I grab it and I walk out, right? I'm like, I don't know what to do. I'm like flustered. I walk out. And the two dudes come running out after me. They're like, bro, I'm coming with you. Where are you going? Where's that school at? And they came and they fucking trained all the way to purple belt, both those guys.
Who are the guys?
It was Jim Lahan, the wood carpenter guy, and a guy named Seth. I don't even remember his last name.
Wow.
They both trained all the way through purple before they kind of faded away. And
Man, you fade away when you're at purple. That's such a shame. You're so close.
as an instructor now, it crushes me when I give a blue belt to someone and then I see them fade. And I'm thinking, God, dude, you got past
The hardest
You're a
part.
color.
Yeah.
The greatest belt you can get is blue.
Yeah.
I say that to this day, and I'm fourth black. Blue, because you're a color. You're not the white anymore. You're in the club. You're in.
Dude, the day John Jock gave me a blue belt was like one of the greatest days of my life. The day John Jock gave me my purple belt, I was like, oh my God, I'm close. I'm so close to brown.
Purple's a danger belt.
Purple belts tap people.
So
I remember seeing a lot of purple belts that could tap brown belts.
Oh, yeah.
Purple
Oh,
belts that were dangerous. They had like
here's-
one really good move.
Oh, yeah. Here's my take on purples. They're just crazy enough to try anything, and they're not worried about getting got.
Especially those purple belts that train every day.
That's obscene.
Those psycho purple
Yeah.
belts. Yeah.
Yeah, they can be. I mean, they're so close to. They're closer to a black belt at that point than they were further from it.
Yeah. I trained with this purple belt. One of the last times I trained, this guy was a surfer at John Jock School in Malibu. And I remember we were just fucking going to war. I was like, Jesus, this guy is so good for a purple belt. He's like close. They're close. They're off on a few things. They don't know all the escapes. They don't know where they're vulnerable. There's just a few things they're off on. But the shit that he was good at, I was like, whoa, this feels dangerous.
Yeah, I know. What drives me crazy as an instructor now and owning a school is, there was a long period of time where we could be lazy and rest on what we knew, right? And you'd get a guy from another school or someone come in and he's a blue belt or even a purple belt. It was like, oh yeah, let's roll. And they run right to you, right? Hey, you rolling today? Let's roll. And I'm like, okay, let's roll. And you're like, you go into this, you lull yourself into a mistake where you go, I'm just going to like defend and be lazy and I'm going to roll here because I don't feel like rolling. And you're rolling with them. And all of a sudden you're like, in your mind, you're like, oh shit, they're a little more than I anticipated. Oh shit, they're amped up and bringing it. And you're like, dude, I just ate 2 donuts. And I'm like thinking about
what drive me the most crazy when a guy would sit on the sidelines and wait, or you roll with 3 or 4 people and then jump up and go, you want to roll? Like, I see UFC fighters do that. And you're like, come on, man.
Come on, dude.
Yeah, you've been waiting. You just sit here waiting for everybody to get tired. Dude, I remember when you lost your job at Nickelodeon. We were in the parking lot of John Jock's. And this is like, what year was that?
That had been, you know what? It had been 98.
Yeah.
98,
like,
because I had a house. I just bought a townhome in Valencia.
Yeah, and we were talking. You're like, fuck, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Like, I'm thinking, but just working on my art. I remember that conversation, man. And then I remember like years later, you're balling out of control and your art's in galleries. And I had a friend and I went over his house and he had one of your fucking paintings above his kitchen table. I was like, holy shit, that's Todd White's painting.
Yeah.
He's like, you know that guy? I go, I do jujitsu with him. I'm like, wow. He goes, yeah, he's really talented. He's really good. It was like one of those cocktail party paintings.
Yeah.
But I remember thinking, this is nuts, man. I'm at someone else's house and Todd White's painting is above his fucking kitchen table. It was wild.
I love that.
But I was telling you the other day, or just earlier today, rather, that Shore, the restaurant out here.
Yeah.
I go in, had no idea. I just go in, me and my wife are on date night. We walk in, and I'm like, this fucking Todd White's paintings are everywhere.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, your style is so distinctive. I can see your like either someone's ripping you off or it's you. So like when I walked in there, I'm like, I'm 99% sure this is Todd White or some Todd White copier.
So, I had 13 years in animation. I came out of high school. I got a job at Warner Brothers as a production assistant on the first season of Tiny Toons. But what I did is I looked at every super talented artist, every draftsman, and I would ask questions, and I was drawing every day. I had no social life, and they would give me such great advice. So I looked at it, that's my college, because I didn't go to school. My mom was a painter, so I grew up in a painting household. Her mom was as well. And I just looked at it as I'm going to educate myself through, the hard work and the grind. And before I knew it, I was just around some of the most talented artists in the industry, and they were showing me techniques and the way to put life into character, and a way to give a drawing life, which is the hardest thing, by the way. I look at a lot of paintings, and they may be technically great, but there's no life. They're dead looking. The eyes are dead. It's a dead looking painting. And so I learned through super talented artists to teach me how to put that kind of personality and life into the drawing, and then translate that into the painting. And I was always obsessed with the Rat Pack and Sinatra and Dean Martin and Sammy Davis Jr. And I had VHS tapes of them at the Summit and everything. And I used to watch them all the time and try to.
They looked like they were having so much fun.
God, men were men and women were dames, and they had the drinks and the cigarettes, and they were blowing smoke in each other's face, and they weren't worried about masks. It was just an amazing time. And
women were dames.
I loved it,
Dames is such a great word.
And so I just I wanted to capture that in painting, and I wanted to kind of bring some of that timelessness back. And I was really good with marker work, marker color comps in animation, because then quickly after that I became a character designer, and so I spent the next 10 years in animation designing characters for shows, and I ended on SpongeBob, and that was like Steve Hillenburg. A lot of my friends from the previous show said, "Hey, we're going over to Nickelodeon. They got this new show they're working on. It's a pilot, SpongeBob, and they need a character guy." And I met with Steven, and he said he gave me marine biology books. He's like, "Here, make these characters." And I went home.
A marine biology book?
Yeah, he was a marine biologist.
Really?
He went to Cal Arts. He wasn't the best draftsman, but he had good ideas. And he was a really cool dude and a surfer. And
so why marine biology? Was he just
because it was all about underwater life?
Show?
I don't know if you've ever seen the show.
Well, I've seen it a few times with my kids. I never really paid attention.
Yeah, it's just like fish.
I didn't know it was underwater.
Yeah, it's all fish life.
Bubble Guppies is underwater.
I don't know what that is. I actually can't stand
you don't
watching.
Watch that with your kids?
I don't. The kids have so many shows going on, and they're all so horrible to watch, so I don't stare at any of them.
Yeah, Bubble Guppies was my daughter's favorite show for like 2 years.
Yeah.
Your style, go to his website and pull some of the images of it. Are they all like this? Like do you do other kinds of styles, or is it most of your work like cocktail party?
I view my work as it's all personality and relatable. So in my mind, I'm not painting art for your furniture or your living room. I'm not painting something you want to put in your living room. I'm painting something that you identify with. And I think a lot of people.
What do you mean by that? Like if it's not for the living room, like where is it if you identify with it?
Yeah, put it wherever you identify. Put it where you identify. See yourself in it. You see yourself. You see your boys. Weekend at Vegas, that time you had the greatest time ever. The women had girls' night out, and they see their new stuff.
But it's also
can you go to my Instagram at all on that? No. That's going to have my newest stuff.
Cartoonish. Oh, okay.
I hate that word.
What?
Cartoonish.
Cartoonish?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
What's a good word?
Charactered.
But no one's going to know what you're saying.
I know. So there you go. There's some new stuff right there. That's like the foxes and, so I always want to represent someone's life. I want them to see their life in it. I want them to see their personality in there.
Can I go back to that picture again? the
chasing foxes.
The blonde, from the left-hand side, the third one, she looks like a bitch.
Oh, good. Because in a group of four,
she looks like the mean one.
In a group of four, that's what you're going to have.
Fuck him.
See, everyone has their own attitude.
Better.
Everyone has their own attitude. Everyone has their own personality.
Like out of those three,
you know why? She gets everything she wants.
I like the girl on the far left, the one in the white. That's my kind of girl.
There you go. She's
smiling.
Soft.
She seems like she's happy.
She's soft.
That one, you got to work for that one that's holding that wine glass too low. She's just too much work.
What do we like? We like the thrill of the hunt, not the thrill of the kill.
No, I like nice people. I get my thrills in other places. I don't want them in relationships. A lot of people, they look for conflict in relationships. I just look for nice people, man. I like the white.
I lucked out.
Yeah, you got lucky. I did too. I like the one in the white. That's my kind of girl. But that one with the low wine glass, I'd tell my friends, bro, please don't bring her over to the house.
Sugar Shack.
So those three, I have no problem with any of those girls.
They're fun. Those are fun.
But I think the one that Jamie's got the cursor over, she's going to be the most problems. She's going to overdose at your house. She's going to.
See, what are we doing? We're having conversations about stupid art, right?
Yeah.
Art should be a conversation piece.
The one on the far right, she's going to fuck your friends.
My friends,
Yeah, you're gonna go on
my
vacation.
clients.
She's going to text your friend, can you help me move? And then she's going to fuck all your friends.
Yeah, so it should be a conversation piece. You should have it in an area where friends come over and they go, "What's going on here?" And it represents you. It represents your personality. They say, "Well, this is how we love our life." And
But
we
I know you got to a point where you were like really in demand. Like I remember I was talking to Eddie about it, and he was like, "God, Todd is so busy. Like he's like constantly working." Does it ever get to a point where it seemed like labor or like that's a dope Hendrix shirt, son? What you got there?
Like that?
Hidden by your gay bandana.
I'm sorry.
It's not
the
gay.
COVID.
It's more like a rancher's bandana.
There you go. We're in Texas.
Yeah.
Yeah,
If it was gay, it would have sequins in it or something. I like that. That's a dope shirt.
You can have it.
Really?
I'll give it to you.
Well, you already gave me
One
this
of the coolest shows I ever did. I have the greatest fans of any artist, period, living. They're awesome people, and they show up in droves. And we were doing a show one time, and this client in England came up, and he goes, and I said, "Dude, that's the greatest jacket I've ever seen." And he goes, "You like it?" I go, "Yeah." And he goes, "It's yours." And I go, "I'm not going to take your jacket." And in my mind, I go, "I'm taking his jacket." And he goes, "No, man, try it on. If it fits you, it's yours." And I thought, that's fair. I try it on. I'm like, "Oh, buddy."
Fit perfect?
He goes, "I fix it." He goes, "It's yours."
Wow.
I go, "Oh, thank you." And then the cool thing is about 10 years later, I was in Toronto doing a show, and a kid came up, an artist kid, and he showed me his work briefly, which I find a bit hard to look at people's work in the middle of my show. And I'm like, "Oh, that's awesome, dude." And he goes, "Man, that's a great jacket." And I go, he was about my size. I go, "Hey, see if this fits you." And it fit him. And I go, "It's yours."
Wow.
And he was like over the moon. He goes, "I can't believe it." And then,
that's
and then
dope.
other people were like, "Dude, I just bought a fucking $60,000 painting. You gave him a jacket?" And he's like, hey, come on, man.
You just got to go with the
Pay it
flow.
forward, pay it forward.
You got to go with the flow. But did you ever get to a point where, because you were painting so much? I mean, you have you like had requirements, right? I mean, was it ever where it felt like work?
No, it was always, I never, unless it was a commission, I was being commissioned by someone to do something, I painted what I wanted, how I wanted it, and every day was exciting to me. Because my paintings start as a story. I have a story in my mind first, and I come up with titles and names, and sometimes you'll be
go back to the Instagram page.
You'll have a conversation with something, and I'll hear something, any one of those pick, and it's a different story.
All right, what's the story of the lady with the? All right, what's the story with the dude jumping up in the air? Is that
That's
Eddie Van
Halen,
Halen?
dude? That was thank you.
Wow.
Sorry, miss you, buddy.
Wow, that's a great
story
Eddie
of
Van Halen.
story of my
dude.
childhood, right there.
That's
1984, riding a school bus to school, and people playing Jump in the back of it on a cassette boombox.
Dude,
That was history, man.
my
That
high
one
school too.
brought a sad tear to my eye when I heard that. I was like, oh.
I've become friends with David Lee Roth, and
know.
it's one of the weirdest things ever. Because when I was in high school, that guy was the shit.
It's God. He was a
And
God.
I'm eating dinner with him in Vegas, and we're laughing and having a good time. And I'm like, this is so strange.
Dude, you have the
that
best
I'm
life.
friends with David Lee Roth, having dinner with him. We're cutting up steaks and having a bunch of laughs. And
At some point in your mind, just to be Joe for a second, you have to go, you're having the conversations, and you have such great conversations with people, and you're like, God damn, this is awesome.
it's weird.
Like-
it seems weird.
It's surreal.
Oh, beyond.
Because here you lived, in a way, you've lived two lives. You had the first portion of your life, which was a youth, struggle, adult. You're trying to get to your goals and make your dreams happen, and it's a work in progress. But all this stuff is going on around you. Music's happening, movies happening, and you're paying attention to it lightly. And now you're at a different part of your life where you're almost the ringleader of things, and it's your circus master, and these people are coming into you, and you're sitting across from like James Hetfield, and you're just having conversations, and you're like, dude, my God, you got me through high school, dude. Ride the Lightning got me through, and it's got to be like such
bizarre.
a personal inside reward to go, God damn, this is awesome.
Well, I without a doubt feel super, super fortunate in the weirdest way. Like, what did I do in a past life to deserve this? But another way, it's alien. It's both. I feel both fortunate, and I also feel like how is this real? Like how am I like when I'm sitting across from anyone? Name the person. Like name even when I
Steven
talk,
Tyler.
Yeah, Steven Tyler. The fact that Steven Tyler knows my fucking name.
Oh,
is
everybody
bizarre.
knows your name.
He came to see me in Vegas. So I'm hanging out with him after my show.
I know.
I'm like, this is so fucking weird.
But you got your foot in the door, and then you earn the room. So it's not like, you're really good at it. So it's not like you're flying by the seat of your pants. It's like
That's
it's so
all well and
easy.
good.
It's good to listen to. It's smooth.
That's all well and good, but it still feels bizarre.
It's got to.
I'm not panicking when I'm talking to him.
No.
but it is. There's parts of the time where he's talking. I'm like, that's Steven Tyler.
I know.
He's right there. I can touch him.
I could
touch him.
I could grab Iron Man and throw him to the ground right now.
Robert Downey Jr.
Where's your Iron Man now, bitch?
Boom! He's actually a martial artist. He's really into Wing Chun.
Yeah, I like that would be better effective. Good. I'm sure I'll get fucking hate mail on that.
It's so true, though. It's so true. Those kung fu dudes, they never let it go.
Ever. So.
Well, you got a lot of the Day of the Dead type gals.
That you're just catching September through November 2nd.
Okay.
That's my little shtick. I do September 1st through November 2nd. I do nothing but Day of the Dead. The best part is when I was over in England touring, they said, what is this Halloween stuff?
Why do you got a butt?
Why not? That was a commission.
Somebody wanted you to make a butt.
That's my collector hired me to paint his wife like that.
Oh, wow.
I had
a picture, or did she stand there?
No, he sent photos. So I won't paint nudes of people's wives. Like, don't send me nudes, I always say, but there's Meg. So I said, hey, my wife says, hey, you got a commission to do. It's a guy that owns a pretty big strip club chain. And I go, yeah. And he goes, yeah, he wants you to paint his wife. And he gave me a story. He met her when he was 18, yanked her right off stage and married her. And she's part of the empire now. And so he sent me a bunch of photos, and she's 40 now. And she was unbelievable, right? Like, God damn. And so I did the painting of her, in a bustier, and I sent it back to him. And my wife says, hey, you got a letter back from them. I got good news and bad news. I thought, oh shit, bad news. I don't like hearing that. And she goes, I go, well, what's the good news first? And she goes, oh, the good news is they love the painting. It's hanging in their bedroom. They say it's a centerpiece. They just think it's the greatest thing ever. I go, well, what's the bad news? He said, if you're ever in New Orleans, New York, or San Francisco again, contact him. You're going to have the greatest night of your life. And I said, that's the bad news? She goes, yeah, you're never going there by yourself again. I thought, oh, yeah, fair enough.
Who's the girl in the lower corner with the glasses?
It's just a
gal?
dirty little floozy. My brand new pistol.
Dirty little floozy.
Just a little scallywag.
Is she a dame? No.
Yeah,
is that a dame? What is a dame versus a floozy?
Dude, a dame is a girl who holds her own in a court of men. Like,
right.
She can just hold it, right? You watch those old classic movies, and they give it back to you. You know, I like that. I like. So my paintings of women, they're not. They may be sexual looking, but they have their own thing going. They have their own agenda. They're strong. They're not with these weak. They're not just pinups.
Yeah, they seem aggressive.
They have a game plan. Okay, and that comes from the cesspool of L.A. and wallowing in that mire and being around that so much that you couldn't meet a nice innocent girl because they all had a game plan. They were after something, whether it was status, whether it was money, or whether it was like to get on a show. Which I'll never fault people for going to a place to try to achieve a dream.
Yeah.
But at some point, it's like that's not happening.
You know what's the most depressing thing in LA when you're meeting people is the people that you think are pretty cool, but then you realize along the way that what they're really doing is being friendly so that they can sort of network.
Of course. Yeah, it's a town of that.
Yeah.
It's hard to filter. I mean, I've been
strange.
friends with people for 15 years. I had dudes that I thought were my bros. We were in foxholes together. And my wife she's got to be a bit psychic because she says, that guy's going to stab you in the back. And I'm like, get out of here. That's never going to happen. And then the right opportunity comes along and they jump ship and they're just like, bang. And you're like, God damn, she was right. And
stab you in the back, how so?
Like what you said, riding coattails, you have a career going, you're doing your thing, and all of a sudden they're like, hey, I want to get in on that. And it's like, yeah, but you sold insurance, and now you're an art guy. And it's like, what? And they just fucking jump on you, and it just, they try to...
It is the weirdest thing when someone wants to be a part of your business.
Yeah.
Someone, hey, let me pitch you something.
Oh.
And you're like, oh, no. Because then you realize they're looking at you as an opportunity for income.
You're an object, and you're yeah. And what's more discouraging for me is people who think, well, you're doing that, I can do that. And like, what do you mean by that?
That's hilarious.
And they go, well, I can do that. I can paint that way. And it's like, well, then do it, and see how far it gets you, because it's not only one thing. It's everything. It's the work, the labor, the drive you have. And I'll take drive any day over talent because the harder you drive something, you can get to that talent level.
I completely agree with that. I always tell people, like, if someone, like, stand-up is a perfect example because a lot of people are funny. A lot of guys are funny hanging out. And they're hanging out with you. And I'm not particularly funny when I'm hanging out. Like when I'm hanging, I can just hang out. Like I'll be funny occasionally if some shit happens or if I have a move. But I'm not a needy comedian. Like I don't have to be the guy who's on all the time.
Right.
So
That's gotta be
sometimes
hard.
guys will go, I can fucking do comedy. Like I'm fucking funnier than you. I could do comedy. I'm like, yeah, you could do comedy. You could do comedy. You definitely could do. I tell everybody, you could do it. But good luck.
Do it over and
Good
over
luck.
again.
But
Be
good luck
fresh.
at understanding what that is. Like you're looking. It seems like you're just talking, because everybody talks. I talk. I can be funny. I say funny things sometimes. My wife laughs at me. Like I think I can do it. And then go get an idea across in front of people. And it seems like you're doing hypnosis is what you're doing. You're doing some weird sort of artistic hypnosis with built-in ideas that spark lights in people's head. And you either can do that or you can't. And even if you can make your friends laugh, doing that on stage in front of people, that shit's going to take forever.
People get very accustomed to like saying stuff with their boys or their friends, and they get these laughs and they think they're really good. But then if you got up on stage and you said something and it dropped dead silent, that's going to hit you, and you're going to be like, it's going to throw you like a gut check kick, and all of a sudden you're like, my next thing is, know.
Well, Eddie really got into comedy again.
Yeah.
Eddie took a long... I forced Eddie on stage, like, in the early 2000s. I forced him on the stage. I'm like, dude, you're funny. Make me laugh all the time. Go do it. And he did it like 8 or 9 times, but the bombing was too much. He couldn't do it. But then when he started running 10th Planet, when he started teaching, he got way more comfortable talking to people.
Yeah.
And he would make the crowd laugh in the gym, when he was teaching classes. And then he eventually was doing seminars. And during seminars, he would have funny stories. And he would do it, and he would be killing. He's like, dude, I was killing at my seminar. I'm thinking about doing stand-up again. I'm like, do it. Fucking do it. And that turned into him actually doing stand-up. And and he was touring with Sam Tripoli for a while. He was doing
I saw
really
the
well.
Tinfoil Hat group.
Tinfoil Hat
I follow him on
Conspiracy Theory
Instagram.
podcast.
Occasionally talk.
Dude, he's funny.
Good.
Eddie makes me laugh. Like he really I knew he could do it. But it's the pain of doing it. But he was like, listen, I'm trying to run a school. I'm trying to compete
spinning
in
a lot of
jiu-jitsu.
plates,
You can't spin too many plates.
Me and my wife are spinning so many plates now. It's like we got the jiu-jitsu school, which is basically a side project that I enjoy doing and a hobby that I've got some awesome instructors helping me with. And then we have our art business, our art publishing business, because I'm self-published. I don't just turn my work over to a company to produce my work. I produce it all.
When you say produce...
Clay's high-end reproductions. When I do a release, it's a limited edition of 135.
And this is
that
for
goes
prints?
out. Yeah, the prints, the high-end reproductions on canvas.
How does that happen? Do you when you like say if you make a painting like one of these paintings and then you want to turn that into a print?
Right.
What's the process?
So you get it scanned. From there, you take it on your computer and you run it through a big Epson 11880 printer the size of this table, and it prints it out on a canvas. And you've got to color correct everything because the photograph versus the computer talking to the inks, and it's different. It comes out. You get that right, and then you start doing your run. Okay. For me, when I do a limited edition, that's it. It's limited. I don't do more. I don't make a smaller version. This is where artists get in trouble because the publicist will say, "Hey, we did 50 of that image. We sold out in a day. Let's do 50 more in a smaller size, and let's do 20 more in a smaller size." So now, if you're the collector, who I value the highest in my profession, they look at it and they go, dude, I bought that. And then I'm walking down this gallery and I see a tiny version of it. Like it's losing value. It's losing its luster. It's like you don't have something so special. Yeah. And so when I do an edition of 135 in the world, that's it. So the UK will buy half out the front. Then the Canada will pick up 20. And then what's left over is for the US.
Why is that? Why is the UK the premier market?
They are De Montfort Fine Art handles me over there, and they are a distributor. So they have their network of galleries. They already did. Here, I'm dealing with the galleries. My wife deals with them. I don't. And she's the business end of it. And she's talking to the galleries and dealing. And we only have like 5 or 6 in the United States. And, from Ohio to then up Northern California.
So how does that work? Like, let's say you have an idea for a painting. You make a painting. How do you decide who gets the original?
Who buys it?
But how do you even put that out there?
So I put it out there on Instagram. Instagram is it's a strange day and time right now because of COVID and it's shutting down galleries. And some galleries are not coming back. We're losing mom and pop galleries.
Yeah.
They're closing down. They go, enough, we're out. And, California was such an awesome, thriving market, and now it's just dead in the water. It's just all these galleries are leaving. Artists are going, what the hell am I going to do? And so I've lost several galleries. And, Instagram is becoming this new, the Amazon for artists. It's like artists are now looking at Instagram as, I'm just going to put my work up there and push myself, and they can contact us. And so that's what happens. I'll post an image, and my clients will see it anywhere around the world, and they'll contact their gallery. And so if they're in England, they'll contact a White Wall gallery, and they'll say, I'd like to and they'll inquire. Because my wife will wake up, and in the morning she'll have 4 or 5 emails from around the world of, hey, how much is that? What's
so
the
is
size
this
of
on
that?
your Instagram page? Like if someone sees one of your paintings,
Correct.
Is there a contact information number or email number or
So
email address?
if they're local, or if they're in the U.S. or whatever, they usually contact us directly from there, from the Instagram. They'll send a DM, or they'll send it my website, my wife's page, and they'll send it to us. If they are a collector who's custom to a gallery, they'll contact that gallery. If I've always bought from Kevin in Ohio, they'll buy it from him directly. They'll call him, hey, Kevin, I saw his new piece. And that's what we want. The problem is these galleries are closing down more and more.
Because of COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so some of them, they're like, well, my guy's gone. So we're just like, just contact us direct. That's fine. In the UK, I send them, anybody from the UK, we send them right over to White Wall Galleries. Anyone in the Canada, we send them to List Gallery. And
What's getting hit the worst? Is it the United States?
the UK.
UK.
Now they have some new strain. They're shut down again.
Yeah, some new strain that's 70% more contagious.
It's just, I got tested by you before I came in here. That was the first time I'd been tested. I see no point in getting, for me personally, I'm very fit. I train one day a week now, embarrassing to say. I know my body very well. And I know when I wake up and something's off. Mm-hmm. And if something's off, I'll get checked immediately.
Yeah.
But to say, I've heard stories from guys who've rolled, friends of mine in California, super athletes, and they're like, yeah, dude, I was doing something. They said I had COVID. And I'm like, and how did you feel? And they're like, I feel great. I feel fine. I'm like, nothing is wrong with me. I didn't know it. I don't have headaches. I don't have anything.
There are false negatives.
Yeah, and I go, dude,
or false positives,
if this is the end-all disease and you feel great, you're not bleeding out your eyeballs, then what, like...
It really depends on the person. It depends on your vulnerabilities. Depends on your age. I had Alex Berenson from he's a former journalist from the New York Times, and he wrote a book on COVID. He wrote a series of 3 booklets about all the things that we're doing wrong, particularly the lockdowns. He's like, these are the worst things you can do, because it's also the worst environment for COVID to spread is when people are stuck indoors. He's like, you're actually seeing upticks in the virus in during the places with the most lockdowns, like Los Angeles, which has the worst lockdowns and the biggest fucking spread of COVID. It's crazy. But he's adamant about it, that it's like it's age dependent and it's comorbidity dependent. The people that are dying, they have an average of 2.6 comorbidities. The people that are dying from COVID. Only 6% of the people who died from COVID actually died from COVID. The most of them are dying from COVID. The way he put it is dying with COVID.
Right.
It doesn't mean it's not dangerous, but it's just not dangerous to you. And it's not dangerous to Jamie. Jamie kicked it in a day. Tony Hinchcliffe, who fucking barely works out, I called him today. He said he feels 100%. He had COVID 2 days ago. He tested positive. He said it felt like shit. Yesterday, he didn't feel too good. Today, he feels 100%. So he basically had a day and a half of feeling shitty. And the whole country shut down for that. But it's the people that are vulnerable are really vulnerable. Older people,
right.
Sick people. But what it is it's exposed. Andrew Schultz said it best, that this disease has exposed a vulnerability in our health and a vulnerability economically, that people can't be out of work for a few months. They can't shut down for a few months. They need that. Even big companies need that money coming in constantly to maintain the business model. And with people's health, there's a lot of people that, like yourself or like Jamie or Tony, that they get it and it's nothing. But there's a lot of people that are very vulnerable because they're just not healthy. They're not taking care of themselves. They're not exercising. They're not watching their nutrition. They're not taking supplements. And when they get hit hard.
That's probably half the nation, though.
It's a big chunk.
So wouldn't it make more sense that they stay inside?
Yes.
They
Bingo. Yes.
lock down.
Yes.
They stay away.
Yeah.
Hey, wouldn't it make more sense if, hey, healthy people work and we're all going to pay this extra tax. I hate that word. We're going to pay an extra tax to support them while they're doing it, as opposed to shut everything down and kill 1 million to save 1,000. Like,
they didn't know, man. When this all started out, I just think no one knew what the fuck it was. They thought it was going to be way worse than it was, and they haven't course corrected.
right. And do you think there's any relation at all, since you love to go down rabbit holes, do you think there's any relation at all to the fact that all these huge companies like Amazon and Google and all are making billions of dollars right now? As long as mom and pop are closed, people can't get what they want from their store, so they go right to online.
I don't think so.
You
I
don't?
think they're profiting from it. I think they're taking advantage of a vulnerability and an availability. I don't think they have anything to do with it happening in the first place. I think what's
No, they didn't have anything to do with the first place. But as you said, as we're
even
learning and going down
the
this
lockdown.
road,
No, I think it's politicians. I think they're just cowards.
who are they lobbied by?
Yeah, there's a little of that, but I just think that would be such a fucking scandal. Like to if they were saying like, let's keep these businesses shut so that Amazon can thrive. Look at you raising your eyebrows.
I don't know what you're talking about.
It's
Don't
interesting.
quote me, boy. I ain't said shit.
It's interesting to think about it that way, and a lot of people are conspiratorially minded, and they look at it that way. You know, Eddie thinks China's taken over. He thinks China released the virus. I don't think he thinks China released the virus on purpose, but if you were really conspiratorially minded, that's what you would think. You would think that China did it on purpose to crash the economy, and then they start buying up all these corporations, which they are doing.
Yeah. And then I'm hearing, I have no idea about this, but I'm getting texts from people like, dude, they're set up in Toronto. They're set up in Canada.
Oh, as long as you're getting texts.
They're they're set up in Mexico. We're surrounded.
By who? China?
Yeah. And Jocko's just like, bring it.
Ready.
Bring it.
Yeah, all caps. I'm ready. Yeah.
He's my go-to. Whenever I get panicked, I call Dad. Jocko, what's going on here? What are we looking at? Don't worry about it. We got it.
Yeah, he got COVID, and I said, how you feeling? He goes, not a factor. That was all caps. Not a factor.
I was working at the jiu-jitsu school one day, and I'm under the counter trying to screw some lights in, and I hear, God, what? And I'm like, I got scared. And I looked up, and he's standing there, and I'm like, oh, Jocko.
Well, he's a guy who's been real smart with his business, too, because he opened up Origin, which they sell gis, they sell really cool stretchy pants, and they sell homemade boots. I got a pair of his homemade boots. They're fucking excellent. Like American-made, factory in Maine, like all stitched together by hand, all done by hand. And like like when I put them on, I'm like, I feel like I bought something that a guy made. You know, it's like, it feels legit. Like it feels like I'm not getting it from Nike or something. I'm getting it from a person.
Your kids are much older right now, but I read the kids' books.
No, my daughter loves his books.
Yeah. And he actually,
my youngest are 10 and 12.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So you can still read to them.
Yeah.
I read to my boys.
If I try to read
girls.
to my 24-year-old, she's not going to listen.
Every night I read to them, and they love, hearing about Uncle Jake. But he did a book that didn't get a lot. It's been kind of quiet with the Mikey and the Dragon book. Okay.
Yeah.
And Mikey slays the dragon. I think I don't want to misquote it. He'll punch me in the face. But I read it, and I'm not kidding you. As a father and with your kids, and you have that moment where you're reading to them. There's a heavy moment in there where the dad had died, and then the Mikey's like reading his letter to him, and it's like I well up. Like I have to stop for a second and read it. But it's so good, and it's such a great story, and it's like, for a guy who is, in leadership, a warrior, and went through that organization, he's very creative in his endeavors of writing and working, and his thinking on that. It almost doesn't make sense.
Well, it does, because he gets good at everything he does.
Yeah,
that's why it makes sense.
I guess so.
It makes sense.
You implement the jiu-jitsu mindset, right? Where you're gonna focus, you're gonna train at it, you're gonna train hard, and you're gonna have that kind of horse blinders on, and just go for that.
Yeah, he's smart with everything he does. And to have a blind spot where your creativity is unbalanced or your creativity sucks, like, he would never allow that. That would be a weakness, He told me a story. He wants me to draw him for his studio, this Marine coming out of this like foxhole with like knives and hatchets, covered, clothes ripped off. And it was a true story about a guy. And so I've almost been intimidated to dive into that, because I'm like, it would never be good enough in his mind. Well, it's how do you do if you haven't experienced that? That's one of those things, like, you could easily paint someone in a jiu-jitsu match, but you haven't been to war.
Right.
So how do you do that without making it embarrassing or making it, foolish? You know what I'm saying?
No, I know exactly what you're saying. I would get, when I was in my animation days, I would get directors call me in and say, hey, we're going to have Ranger Smith fight with Yogi Bear, but they need to look like they're really fighting. And they would ask me, they're like, well, how do you do this? And I'm like, well, I'm not a fighter. I just do jujitsu. And I know that really well. And they say, well, we're going to have them put them in the guard and they're going to roll around. And I'm like, okay, do it like this. And he loved it. And John Kay, who did Ren and Stimpy, he was obsessed with jujitsu and UFC.
Really?
And he would have huge parties at his house every UFC, and Tank Abbott was his favorite guy, and he would want to integrate those fighting moves into his cartoons, and he would always get blowback from networks and such. And so there's a great documentary, the Ren and Stimpy Happy Happy Joy Joy, that I sent it to you.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you can see it. I think it's on Apple. It's everywhere.
Yeah.
But I had a small hand in that with some fucking chemo, and they're awesome dudes. And they did a beautiful documentary on the whole history of that show and the failure of it, and it has a lot to do with like just that mental inner genius going over the edge, And I see that a lot. You have to see it a lot, where somebody's on path and they're doing something so great, and then all of a sudden it just starts twisting and going in a different direction, but in their mind it's still great. Mm-hmm. I mean, how do you contend with your own writing abilities and that, like? For me, I feel like I have this kind of black hole that everything I'm doing, I'm trying to fill in. And I know I've heard only stories of comedians who are like, well, we're all kind of like miserable that we're using this comedy to put Band-Aids on. And I don't know if that's a thing with you at all. Because you have outlets like working out and fighting, and you're healthy. And
that keeps me sane.
It does.
Yeah.
It keeps me too.
It keeps my approach to comedy reasonably healthy too. Like the way I describe it is I make my own bullshit. Like I don't like to have real struggle in my life, so I make brutal workouts and I put myself through a horrific struggle so that regular life, like it's the easy. Other struggles, is easy. If anybody, like, I'll tell people, like, come work out with me. You want to feel like shit? You want to feel like it never ends? You want to feel like you can't do this? Like, come do that. And then once you do it, then other things feel easier. It's like Jocko. Like Jocko, you look at his Instagram every fucking morning, the aftermath, and he'll show you a puddle of sweat on the ground, some fucking sweaty kettlebells, jump ropes, dip rings, whatever the fuck it is he did that day. Like, beat yourself up in that way, and then you're not mind fucking yourself the way you do if you have all this unchecked, unbridled energy and angst, and you don't have a handle on it. And I don't think it affects your creativity. I think in any way, there it is, always.
Yeah, it's just...
The aftermath. Kettlebells had a bad attitude this morning. But to do that, in my mind, is the best way to deal with the things that we all deal with. Everybody's got some sort of internal struggle. Everybody's got some demons.
Dark passenger.
Yeah, there's always something. It's very hard to keep the mind on track. Very hard.
It is.
I woke up the other night to take a piss. And just a normal thing. I drank too much water before I went to bed. I woke up at like 3 o'clock in the morning to take a piss. I went back to bed and my fucking brain started racing.
All the time
thinking about everything. And I never got to sleep again. Yeah. My alarm clock went off at 8 and I was like, fuck. I sat in my fucking bed for hours and hours trying to think about my breathing and just slowly put myself into a trance. Nope. Never went there. All I was doing was just thinking about this and thinking about that, and my mind got away from me. And it happens still to this day. Most of the time it doesn't. Like last night, I was real calm about it. I'm like, it's not going to happen again, you motherfucker. I am going to get a full night's sleep, and I'm not going to get crazy.
I talk to myself the same way. I'm like, you son of a bitch.
Just one idea in my head that I'm thinking about, things that I need to do or things that I need to correct or things that I need to work on, and then I'll get lost. And I'm like, fuck!
I hate when I think about minutia, like something I said a week ago to someone, and I wish I wouldn't have said that. Yes. Or I wish I would have said it differently. Yeah. Or a business deal that I felt I could have done better at. And I start thinking of that, and I'm like, that is gone. Why are you wasting your time? So sometimes, as an artist, I try to think of a blank piece of paper, and I picture a hand and a pencil just touching that paper. Like I try to go to sleep to that, just like don't draw anything, don't do anything, just stare at that white paper and try to fade. And I can't, I mean, sometimes I feel like it works, but a lot of times it doesn't, or I have an angst, I probably said something, to the wife that I regret, and I'm just laying there and my stomach's on fire and I'm just burning, and I'm like.
But that's also because you want to be a better person. I'm
trying. I think moving here for me was the best thing I could have done to get out of LA. You're as we said earlier, you're around so many people they're all trying to make it. They're all trying in this. I call it crabs in a bucket. The minute you start to get to the top, the other fingers come up and pull the crab back down, and you're in this environment, and it's like a wolf pack of wolves. And when one shows weakness or is bleeding, all of them jump on that wolf and just like bark and bite, but then you go home and you bring that to the table at home. At least I do, and it's so hard on our spouses, and they have to deal with that. And how strong are they, to stay with us this long and to deal with that.
Well, that's where training comes in, don't you think? Like training just pushes all that out of your system.
For me, yes, but it doesn't push it out of the system. You created the mess, the hornet's nest at home, and then so. Does your wife train with you at all ever?
No, she works out a lot though.
Mine, I've she'll work out, but not on the level of a ton. And I want to get her into jiu-jitsu because I feel like the movement, right? Even like, she'll say, I don't want like sweaty people crushing me. I go, okay, fine. Just work with me and let's just move and get that movement down and just sweat. And you'll be amazed at how much you'll just break sweat and be tired, and your legs will be sore the next day from just do 50 armbar drills. Just get that movement in. And I use jiu-jitsu every day in my life and work and just the dealings and talking.
Yeah, but jiu-jitsu also, it calms the monkey mind. That fucking aggressive part of a man's mind where you're combative and aggressive. Jiu-jitsu calms all that down, because the kind of aggression that you get in jiu-jitsu, like really dealing with someone actually trying to strangle you, like, and defending and, and then trying to strangle them and trying to get the tap. Like, that kind of aggression is so extreme in comparison to the average person's everyday life that when you get through that, I think everything else just seems much more calm.
It's the greatest feeling driving home after a hard workout, and you got the windows down and it's a little chilly outside, and you got that inner core fire going, and you're exhausted, you're depleted, you're just like,
and you can sleep good. Yeah, I always sleep good after training. I always sleep good after a hard day. A difficult, long, tough day is good for you. It just like calms the mind down. When I don't do anything, that's when I'm at my worst. Like, if I take a couple of days off and just lay around and fuck off, that's when my mind starts racing. I start thinking about all kinds of shit, and I have too much energy.
Do you ever feel you deserve a little day off, or is that when you go hunting and you're like, I'm on hunting now?
Well, hunting feels like,
because that's work.
Yeah, but it is a day off. It's a day off of my regular life. Like, I enjoy it, but it's hard. Like, the kind of hunting I do, too, is mountain bow hunting.
Right. You're walking and hiking for long ways, carrying rucksacks.
Yeah, and it's also, you got to get to a spot while the wind is blowing correctly. You got to hustle, and then you got to keep your shit together when you're trying to center your pin on an elk's vitals, and it's not easy. And it's hard to execute a shot. It's hard. Like, bow hunting is fucking difficult. It's not easy.
Would you ever have thought you were going to be a hunter?
No.
10 years ago?
10 years ago, yeah. 10 years ago, I was obsessed with it before I ever did it. I started hunting 8 years ago. And around 11, 12 years ago, I started really thinking about it. I started watching Ted Nugent's Spirit of the Wild on TV.
Wild man.
And I started paying attention to websites that talked about hunting and talked about, just different aspects of like what it feels like to acquire your own meat in the wild. And then I started paying attention to PETA videos, man. That's one of the reasons that I got into it. I had decided that I was either going to become a vegetarian or I was going to hunt, because I was watching these factory farming videos, and fuck, man, they freaked me out. Watching just abuse of animals and chickens stuffed into these little tiny pens, and what kind of life was that? And I was like, am I contributing to this? Like, what kind of fucking hellish karma am I bringing on with this being a part of this system? And so I was trying to figure it out. I was like, well, maybe I'll just become a vegetarian, or maybe I'll become a hunter. And so the first hunting I ever did was on a television show. I hunted on Steve Rinella's Meat Eater.
Oh, that's
and
awesome.
I shot a buck, and we ate the liver over a fire. And that night, I was like, I am going to be a hunter. I know what I want to do.
It's so much more than that, though. It's the camaraderie. It's the the fire. It's
also
cooking.
You become friends with exceptional people, like jiu-jitsu, right? It's very similar. Like a person to get good at jiu-jitsu, like yourself, a person who gets to the black belt level, like you have to be an exceptional person. It's very difficult to do. It's hard. It's hard to endure and to get through the struggle, and you're battling all these demons and all this shit to get to that point. It's the same thing with hunting. Like the people that get really good at hunting, especially bow hunting, like those are exceptional people. It is not easy to do.
Right.
The guys that excel at it, the guys like Cam Haynes and John Dudley and all these guys, Remy Warren, guys that I know, these are exceptional human beings. Like they have exceptional character, exceptional mental strength and fortitude, exceptional discipline. Like they're not normal humans.
It's awesome being around that energy too.
Yeah.
You feed off of it, and you're like, I get it.
And also for me, it's like I was really fortunate to find a place like John Jocks, right? So I'm learning from a real master, right? And it's been the same thing with bow hunting. I was really fortunate to learn from guys like Cam Haynes and John Dudley, learning from like real masters who've been studying this craft that's also the way they acquire their food. I mean, it's not just hunting. It's also this insane discipline that's a lifestyle. And then when you're eating your food, like I'm going to give you some elk today. When you're eating this food, I ran an arrow through that elk. That's how that elk is on this table. I remember the hunt. I remember everything about it. I remember all of it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's the best way to acquire meat, in my mind.
I grew up in a hunting family, hunting household from grandparents to dads and all. And my papa used to pick me up at...
Your papa?
I grew up in San Antonio, Texas, about 120 miles down the road. I'd be in high school at John Marshall, and I'd get a call at noon. Please send Todd White to the office, please. And I'm like, oh no, my papa's here. And I would get there, and he'd be like, let's go, get your gun, we're going hunting. Because he was a cantankerous little guy, and he didn't have a lot of friends.
So he could just pull you out of school.
He would yank me out of school to go hunting with him, because he didn't want to go up to the hunting lease alone, and he needed someone to do a lot of the work.
Oh, that's hilarious.
So, if he shot something, I'm going to have to skin it and gut it and kill it. And well, he already killed it, but or we'd go bird hunting a lot.
Yeah.
I love quail hunting, and we'd shoot a ton of bob whites and blues. And
how many times you cracked your teeth biting into a pellet?
You know what? I never cracked a tooth because I was cautious. I grew up hearing like, birds been shot, don't go chewing your food, bite into it lightly.
Yeah, isn't that funny though?
And I would, you spit some out, ting,
that's
spit them
so
out.
Crazy.
And he used to get he used to get so angry at me when I would sneak up on a covey of quail, and they would fly up, and they'd only be like 10 feet away, and I'd be like, and it would just disintegrate, and he'd get so mad. He'd be like, let the bird get away from you, you pussy, what are you shooting it that close for?
So you have to let it get away from you.
Yeah, because he would feel it gave the bird a chance, and it felt like you had to shoot it while it was further going away, and supposed to right in front of you. And
was it because it doesn't destroy the meat?
Yeah, you would destroy it. And he was like, you don't destroy them, you're eating what you kill.
Yeah.
And we're not here just to shoot things. You're here to...
I've only been bird hunting a couple times. I went turkey hunting once with Ranella on the same show, Meat Eater. I shot a turkey. And then I went pheasant hunting with Anthony Bourdain. That was fun. Yeah. And he shot one. I shot out. I nicked one. Didn't quite get it. I hit the bottom of his feather. I sent a little bit of feather flying.
Where did you go pheasant hunting at?
Montana. Yeah. Outside of Billings.
That is one man I really wish I would have met.
I love that dude.
God, I wish I would have met. I was such a fan of his show.
Yeah.
And it was so sad. My wife came in the morning and she goes, you're going to be so sad. And I was like, oh no, what?
I found out from Maynard from Tool. Maynard does jiu-jitsu, and Bourdain was obsessed with jiu-jitsu. So
did they ever roll together?
No. So this is the thing. Maynard sends me a text message. I'm in Chicago. I'm doing stand-up. And I wake up in the morning. I got a text message from Maynard. It says, well, I guess that Bourdain versus Maynard jiu-jitsu match is never going to happen. So I looked at the text. I'm like, what does that mean? So I think of calling him, and I think I Googled it. I think I Googled Anthony Bourdain. I think that's what happened. But all I remember is the moment I found out. I honestly, I know I got the inkling from him, but I don't remember what I read. But I remember just this sinking feeling like, fuck. And the feeling you always have when someone kills himself, which is like, what could I have done? What could I have done? If I was there, I felt like if I was there, that wouldn't have happened. If I was there, I would have talked him down off the ledge. I would have been there. He's had a horrible relationship with this woman, and she was a mess, and he was a mess with her, and then he had a horrible relationship with alcohol too. He was a junkie for a long time, and he, like when we were partying in Montana, when we shot the quail or shot the pheasant, and we were eating, we camped out, eating over the fire. Bro, that guy got fucked up. I mean, he got fucked up at a level like I don't get that fucked up. Like he kept going. We were stoned. We were drunk. He's like, what else you got? You got more pot? Yeah. You got more booze? Like, open that bottle. I'm like, Jesus Christ. Like, I'm sitting here barely hanging on to this log, trying to sit in front of the fire, and he just got blasted. He was escaping. He was
hiding,
something.
burying the pain.
Yeah, he was escaping something, but he was obsessed with jiu-jitsu, man. He really loved it. He had a competition he did. He entered into competition, and he was training all the time. He developed a six-pack. Like, he got like really ripped. He went from being a guy with like a little little fat belly to being a guy who was like pretty ripped, and he's doing a lot of exercises and training basically every day, and he was training every day on the road. Look at him there, man.
Look at that.
I mean, cut the fuck up. I mean, that was a guy who was not, I don't think he even got on a mat until he was like 59 or something like that. His ex-wife, Otavia, she's really into jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
I think she might be a black belt now.
Wait a minute. Is that on the right-hand corner? Scroll back to the left side, Jamie, right there. Is that Joe? No, it's not.
No, I never trained with him. We did some, when we were in Montana, I showed him some stuff. We were just rolling around a little, not even rolling around just a little bit. He was asking me questions, and I was like, what do you like to do? And, like, talking about Darce chokes. And I said, do you know what a Japanese necktie is? And he said, no. And I showed him that. I'm like, if you can't get the Darce, you can do the Japanese necktie. So we're demonstrating some stuff. So we're like rolling around together on the fucking
dirt
on the ground.
That's awesome, though, right? Because that's something you can share, right?
Yeah.
There's not a lot of people that you can.
Jiu-jitsu people are like, get on your back, get on your back. Like,
yeah,
and they'll get on top of you and like.
Other people are like, what the fuck
are you doing, man? Yeah, he had another guy that he worked with that was really into jiu-jitsu too. That was a friend of his. It was just this fucking sinking, shitty feeling where you feel like you could have done better, but you don't know what you could have done, and then you're probably lying to yourself. Like, unless I was in France with him when it happened, I'm not going to stop it.
Right.
Like how. And it's also I recognized from the night hanging out with him partying. Like, I had drank with him before. I'd gone to dinner with him a bunch of times before, but camping is a different animal. Like,
camping's awesome.
Yeah,
camping. You really get down to the meat and potatoes of brohood, and you just get to hang with dudes, and like y'all share intimate stories about things and passions and addictions, and
also the stars.
Yeah, it's just you're outside. It's so primal. Mm-hmm. It's the way it was.
Yeah,
I believe we all have. People who are at this level, we all have addictions in one way or another, and how we guide that addiction and where it goes.
Well, what leads you to get really good at things is an obsession. An obsession and addiction are next door neighbors. They're really close to each other. They're very close. It's all dependent upon which one is healthy and which one is negative and degrades your life. And the addictions degrade your life, and the obsessions enhance your success. But they're real close to each other sometimes. I've been obsessed with things that prove to be beneficial financially and career-wise, but part of me has got to go, man, I don't know how healthy it is that I'm so obsessed with this. Like, stand-up comedy early on in my career was a little bit unhealthy. I was so obsessed with it. I was just so driven. And jiu-jitsu and martial arts, for sure when I was fighting, I was very obsessed with that. And it led to good consequences, but that is so close to like a gambling addiction. It's just like, it just has to be switched a little. It's like a lot of guys, when they end up fighting, they stop fighting, they wind up being coke addicts.
Well, they're going into another avenue. But obviously there's good ones and bad ones.
Yeah, that you can
you're on
use
several good paths.
You can use it to your benefit. But it's I think the same thing that leads you to be obsessed with things and get really good at that you got to be real careful, because that same sort of mental focus can also lead you to get addicted to things.
Yeah, I mean, I never tried any drugs all the way through like the age of 32. I never got high. I never touched weed till 32. I never got drunk until I was 32.
Really?
Ever.
What happened 32?
Well,
Just fucking
I mean,
heroin, coke, let's party.
I've never done that.
Now
but
I'm partying.
Now it's on. It's all just shove it in me. Bend over. Here's my ass. Take it all.
Woo!
But no, my whole family in one way or another have addictive personalities, and I knew I did. For me, early on, it was baseball. I was super addicted, and then when that wasn't going to pan out, it became art, and I'd always done art, so it was easy to shift right into it. And I knew if I did something that would distract from my goal of art, that I would go down that path, and I would start doing stuff. And if it felt good and I loved it, I would dive into it full-heartedly. That's why, thank God, at the time I found jiu-jitsu. Because for my life, it just became jiu-jitsu and art. And
that's the case with so many people. Like, jiu-jitsu literally saves their life.
Yeah, it was, man, I was my dad always came up, the world's out to get him. Everybody's out to get you. They're going to stab you in the back, and very untrusting with everything. And so I kind of came with that anger, and he was an angry dude, and I had a lot of anger in me early on. And I'm telling you, man, getting into that school, and particularly that school, I think, because I've heard stories at other places that were run a little different, and Jean-Jacques was such a Jesus character, if you will. He had this compassion and this patience, and he would show you stuff and talk to you, and his demeanor wasn't aggro. He wasn't like, he didn't think he was a UFC fighter. He was just like, no, you want to move like this and move like that and shift your body, and following that and the patience and focusing with that, it made me a lot more calm. Having another man choke the life out of you makes you calm, like keeps you calm under that stress, that duress, like he'll be standing over you and someone's trying to wrap you up and he's like, protect your neck, get your back to the floor, turn into him, and so you have that slowness to look and pay attention at the same time you're defending and fighting and looking, and sweat's going everywhere and people are spitting on each other and you're turning into it. And it was, I take that to this day, when things get, someone's in my face barking about something, or you get in the art world, you get these people that have really big pants, but they would cower if you stood up.
What do you mean in the art world? Like,
you get publishers, you get gallery owners that are going to bark at you and tell you the way it is, and you're going to do this.
Do they really?
Oh yeah.
Really?
Or
the art world?
Oh, telling you, man.
Tell me.
I've dealt with gallery owners who are like super bullies, who are like, you're going to do this. I need this now, and you're going to get it today, tomorrow. And
you talk to you like
all
that?
the time. And you go, I'm probably not going to do any of that. And the thing is, I like to be super calm. And it's almost like mind jiu-jitsu where I go, all that huffing and puffing you're doing doesn't affect me one bit. If you want to go to sleep, I can accommodate that. But we're not going to go down that road. That's
interesting. I would never have thought that the art world...
It can be a dirty world. I've had galleries that knocked me off, my own galleries, start ripping me off and producing work of mine out the back door and signing my name.
Like making prints of your shit?
That's right.
Wow. And one. Fake signing your name?
Yep. Caught him. And then they said, no, we got that from China and we're suing you. And they come after me.
They got it from China?
Yeah, they would make up shit. It was all made up, right? We caught them. And
where was this gallery?
It was in Huntington Beach.
Really?
Yeah. And we caught them, and we shut it down hard, and then they flipped the script. And that's when it was interesting, because we were getting calls from a lot of media and press, and they were asking me like, "Oh, you've been referred to as you and your band of thugs went down and took all your art, right?" So what I did is I flipped it. I said, "I like that title. I'm going to do a painting called Band of Thugs." And I did this like old mobster 30s painting of all these dudes and thugs, band of thugs, and I'm going to make money off that. And it was
So did you have to go down there and get your art from
Oh,
them?
yeah. I went and took everything. I got my art back. I'm taking all of it out of here. You're no longer a Todd White gallery. You're done. And it soon withered and died after that. But it drug out illegal problems and legal cases. And
how long did it last?
About a year and a half.
Is that the band
There it
of
is.
thugs?
Look at that. That's it. Look at the guy missing an eye.
Oh, wow.
Just that's a band of thugs, right? You want a band of thugs? There it is.
That's great.
And
That's like some what's that fucking guy? The Butcher.
Oh yeah, Bill the Butcher.
Bill the Butcher from Gangs of New York.
Gangs of New
Yes.
York. Gangs of New York. Yeah.
Go to that picture.
Bill the
again.
Butcher.
I mean, that is kind of how they're
Look
done.
at that.
They're painted like old timey bad people.
Yeah. Yeah, it was funny because this Vanity Fair did an article on it, and they totally. It's funny because
Vanity Fair did an article on what?
the whole scam and the whole bullshit.
Really?
Yeah, because it made a lot of, she sold a couple $100,000 in fake art out there, and she sold it across international.
As a woman.
Yeah, it was a woman, and international lines, and it went.
So she ripped you off to the tune of a couple $100,000.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Wow.
And it was funny because when it all came out and it was all court cases and stuff, I had galleries calling me because I got scared. Like, oh no, I had galleries calling me and they're like, hey, we want to carry you. And this is 2012. Hey, we want to carry you. And I thought, what's this weird? Like all this bad stuff's happening, but why? So the guy calls me back, a art publisher calls me and he goes, let me get this right. You're asking me how come galleries want to carry you when this is shit's going on? She made you De Niro in a Scorsese movie and you're wondering why? And I was like, he goes, play it up, live up to it. Go ahead, go. Oh yeah, you can carry me, and you know what'll happen if you don't pay on time.
Oh no!
And so it was just ridiculousness, and but it look, truth prevailed, and it worked out, and they're gone, and I'm still thriving. So.
It is a bummer though that you'd have to think like that. You would imagine that. See, this is where I'm fucked up because obviously I don't have any experience in the professional world of art, but you're thinking that you're dealing with other artists and the people that aren't profit minded. You think of artists. When I think of artists, I think of creative people that just want to make cool shit and do things. And
it's awesome.
And then the people that want to. I know that's the problem with like marrying your mistress, right? There's the problem with making a business out of something that you really find just to be a passion.
It's tough,
you
especially
have to get in there.
Yeah. Get in there and wallow in that mire. And sometimes there's some ugly sides to it.
What was it? Did you get eye to eye with this lady after she had sold your shit?
She ratted herself out accidentally. She was a drunk, and she appeared and needed me to sign an image. That sometimes, every once in a blue moon, when you're that close to me in LA, and they'd come up and grab stuff, and something wouldn't got signed by me.
Right.
So she gives me the signature, and she gives me this image. She's like, "Here, I need you to sign this," and I look at it. Instantly, I know. I'm like, "This ain't mine. This is a bad copy." Print. You know how a Xerox of a Xerox of a Xerox looks tattered and old? It was all out of focus. It was shorter. It was shorter. And I'm like, I look at her and I go, where'd you get this? And I saw right there in her face. She's like, from you. And I was like, I'm going to take this. Now we produce our own everything. I produce everything. So I know the canvas I use. I know the inks I use. I know the color. I know the embellishing gel I use. So I took it. I go, I'm going to keep this. And she's like, okay. And she left. And I call my wife and I go, I think she's ripping this off. And my wife's like, no, she wouldn't do that. And I go, I think she is. So I get home and we tear it apart. We break open the canvas. We look at it. We dissect this thing. And sure enough, it was total knockoff, nothing of ours. And so we called that gallery, and there was the kid working there, and we're like, hey, we made a mistake. We need some information on some stuff. He's like, oh yeah, I have all the files here. I'll send them over. And he sends over this stuff, and these numbers don't add up because, like I said, it's limited numbers, right? Like money, they have a number on them.
Right.
So these numbers aren't at all what they had. So they're making up numbers. So we catch that, and then we just start building a case, and I got the LAPD involved. How crazy is this? Through Jean-Jacques School, there was a woman who dealt in art fraud department for the Los Angeles Police Department, right?
There's an art fraud department?
Who knew?
They don't have a looting department.
Who knew?
But they have an art fraud department?
They did, until that woman got yanked in for murdering the fiance of another man's woman so she could marry that dude. And that was a big deal. Right in the middle of handling my shit. So you can imagine that went to nothing, like that disappeared.
Whoa.
Yeah.
She murdered a woman so she could marry the dude?
That's right.
Jesus, that's a vicious bitch.
15 years later, they caught her.
Oh my God. So she got away with it?
DNA evidence of bite mark.
Bite mark?
Bite
but
mark.
Wait a minute. That's interesting because I had some guys on from the Innocence Project.
I know.
Josh Dubin and Jason Fung.
Yeah.
And Josh Dubin says that bite mark shit is all nonsense.
Well,
He says that is all junk science. He says there's no way you can tell from a person biting someone that it's absolutely them. They might have got the wrong person. Like legitimately. He said that it's a total junk science.
Yeah.
And he explained it in detail on the show. And he has his own podcast. His podcast is called Junk Science. What is Josh's junk science, and I forget the full title of it, but he's dealt with bite marks, with people that think that they can tell where a fire started. He's like, a giant percentage of that is horseshit. They bring in these experts. The experts convince the jury and the prosecuting attorneys that they can do this, and they can't. Wrongful conviction, junk science, bite mark evidence. This is Josh. Dude, that lady might have got railroaded. There might be an innocent lady in jail right now going, I just wanted to catch art thieves.
I don't know. I don't know how that panned out, but it
might not be
didn't
real,
bode
man.
well.
The way he says it, man, it's not real. He says it's not real.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's
He says they can't. This is a retired LA detective sentenced to 27 years to life for 1986 murder. Wow, 15 years later. Look at her, though. She's guilty. I don't know. I'm just kidding.
Scary. I never saw her. It was a phone conversation.
Wow.
That's
Did
nuts.
she confess?
I
at
guess
any
so.
point?
I guess
she
so
did.
because her husband, she was married to a cop, and so her husband trained. during the
Oh,
riots.
my God.
And
So the guy she married, she killed his ex. Oh, my God.
Girlfriend.
Yeah. How'd she kill him?
I have no idea.
Kill her,
I
rather.
have no idea. I didn't pry too deep.
that is dark
Sometimes
shit.
the people we know, you don't ask too many questions.
I know.
You're like, oh, it happened. Okay, I believe you.
Yeah.
And it goes down that path.
That's the problem with jiu-jitsu. Like, there's a lot of people that are fucking basically assassins that are training with you.
Well, not only that, you get a ton of special forces. I mean,
Yeah.
we're here in Dripping Springs, and we have 6 retired Navy SEALs that train with us.
Mm-hmm.
And they just, there's a lot of them out here. They love the food and the music and the scene and
Yeah, just Texas
and
in
the gun
general.
laws
Yeah.
are great
Yeah.
for now.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you got your carry yet?
I just went through the whole course this
Good.
past
Good for you.
weekend. Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
carrying mine.
Yeah.
That's good.
It's a different world out here.
It's a great world.
Yeah.
Let's keep it great.
Yes. Yeah. Well, that's the worry about people moving here, right?
You know how many people are like, fucking Joe Rogan moved here. Now every goddamn fucking whiny, I hear it a lot.
What are they saying?
They're like, well, first of all, you have such a cachet that there are land developers that are buying up chunks of properties, all based off Joe Rogan moved there. Period.
Oh, Jesus.
And that comes from the mouth of the land developer.
Really?
Yeah, because they're clients of mine, and they'll tell me like, oh yeah, he's there. He knows it. We're buying up properties like crazy, and developing
Because
homes.
I moved here.
Because you moved here. Because you brought not Egan Schiele, hilarious. You brought Elon Musk.
Elon was thinking about moving here already.
And
Because, he was already starting up the Tesla
factory.
up here. Yeah. But I'm bringing in a lot of fucking comedians, I'll tell you that. They're coming in.
You better get their mind right.
Well, we'll get their mind right. I'm bringing them to the range.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
The idea is to turn Austin into a comedy hub. Because right now, comedy's fucked. What happened?
Bite mark thing. I want to dig through it real quick before we
Okay.
get too far. Is saliva they had left on it, cotton swab they tested to find out it was a woman. Now 2 men they thought she had staged a fake burglary. And
She
said
staged
was
a fake
victim.
burglary.
Yeah.
Dude,
Also,
if this-
saliva.
Had something like that. Yeah.
Oh, okay,
Well,
that's
bite mark,
different.
Yeah.
If this whole thing ever collapsed, you could definitely go work for like science research centers for detectives.
He's the greatest Googler on earth.
Oh my God, dude.
That's way more definitive. She's guilty as fuck. That's
She just
DNA.
went from could be innocent to guilty as fuck.
Well,
Goodbye.
that bite mark shit, I used to think it was legit. Like, oh, you could tell by the pattern of the teeth. And Josh was like, no fucking way. You can't tell at all. He's like, it's bullshit. He goes, you could make a mark with a chisel and it looks like
Don't
like
they
teeth patterns.
find sharks who bite surfboards?
Yeah, but that's a shark. You know a bite, but you don't know the person who bit you. He was saying like that they've had things with people missing teeth, and they said it had to be him because he's missing teeth.
Yeah,
like,
there's a spot
he's like,
here.
no, you could make this. You can't reproduce this. Like you could make these marks with all kinds of different things. He goes, it doesn't necessarily even have to be a bite. And if it is a bite, you could definitely do it with a bunch of different mouths and have the exact same marking, given the same, different
They
circumstances.
got her in a pretty interesting way too, because she was already in LAPD. She was already there, so they had to like fake a different interview that they needed her special expertise on. Staged a 1-hour interrogation, where they were then like saying, "Oh, by the way, this is the evidence on you," and she was like, "Am I on candid camera? What is going on? This is crazy," and then try to leave, and they're like, click, click.
Yeah.
Just stay here.
So the other side of that, they got her in that room because you have to take all your weapons out
Yeah, they
and
need her
leave your
without a
weapons.
gun.
So she didn't have a gun on her.
Wow.
Yeah, I heard that too.
That's heavy.
The tangle webs we weave.
I wonder what the questions were.
Who knows?
Like,
dude?
so,
That was
if someone bit someone, let's just get
just say.
crazy. Let's get crazy. Say you're fucking this guy, and he had a fiance, and you thought that he was gonna stay with the fiance. Bro, some people are, and you know what? They probably would never kill normally. Like, there are people that would never kill normally, and maybe never kill again. But you just get them to that fucking edge.
Love.
A lot of times it's love.
Love. Will
Might
take
not
you
even
in down dark holes.
Might not even really be love. It might be desire and lust and possession and ego and some women they get mad at other women, man. There's a different kind of anger. Women anger at other women is a fierce anger, man. It's like,
You want to do something fun next time you're out with whatever, your wife at a restaurant or bar or whatever, and you have a bar nearby. I do this for a living. I watch people. I watch groups. I watch them interact, okay? And you watch groups of girls interact, whether they're young or older. There is a difference. And older ones, they'll do a lot of still moving, hand gesturing, fidgeting, back and forth talking, a lot of facial expressions with girls. Young girls will get into movement. Young girls will move their bodies around. They'll say stuff and they'll laugh and they'll act out things, right? But you watch dudes, this group of dudes talking, for the most part, not drunk talking, just at bars talking. They got their drink by their chest. They lean in. They make a face like, no way, no, what? That's the dudes talking. So I take all that because I stare. I watch people. Everything I do, I stare. And I can uncomfortably stare. I've had dudes approach me in restaurants and they're like, hey, bro, is there something you need to say? And I'm like, I'm sorry, dude. I was just watching.
I'm an artist.
I was just watching, dude. I'm sorry.
Here's some of my work. This is how I.
You checking my wife out, dude? You've been looking at us like uncomfortably. I'm like, so now I try to have my wife with me. I'm like, no, just looking. But I like to, I look at the way clothes hang on people. I look at the way dudes wear pants. I look at the way women have dresses. I look at the shoes they're wearing. Like I'm soaking it in, right? That's my reference. I'm pulling reference on everybody.
And you use that for your art.
Oh, all the time. That's all I refer to. I'm no longer the one small thing I miss about not being in LA is I miss some of the artists that I was around and the conversations you can have. And, probably the same reason you're creating more of a hub here and bringing comedians here, because you miss that camaraderie of that feedback, right?
Well, it's also, we need a place to work. Comics need a bunch of other comics around, just like
to bounce off.
Well, yeah, it's almost like, you can't train with all white belts. Right. You won't advance.
Right. That's a great analogy.
It's the same thing with comedy. You need to be around other killers. You need to feel the vibe. You need to see their timing. You need to feel like what it feels like to laugh at somebody else's stuff and be like, it's inspiring.
It energizes you.
Yeah.
It energizes you. You go, okay, I love that. I'm going to take that now. I got to reach that level too.
It was the best thing about the Comedy Store is that we were surrounded by other killers. It's like you would go there on any given night. There would be 10 elite comedians there. And, you'd get to see their writing, you get to see their performing, and you go, wow, it's very, very inspiring. And it's, comedy doesn't exist in a vacuum. We really feed off of each other. We help each other a lot.
Same thing in the art world. There's artists you hang around, you get, my boy Rick, we share ideas, we talk, and it gets you motivated and energized. He's in a totally different genre of jewelry sculpting and rings, and I'm like in painting, and we have the same mindset, the same thinking, the same ideas, and it's great to just mill those through and talk them through. And sometimes he'll call you on shit and be like, oh, that's a horrible idea, and you're like, but I thought it was so great.
I think that's the case with people, period. And I bet it's in all walks of life, is that you feed off of other excellent people around you. The more excellent people around you that are doing things and working hard towards things, the more you feel good about it. Like when I go to Jocko's Instagram, right, and I just see his workouts, or I go to David Goggins or Cam Hanes, I get fucking excited. I get fired up. I get like that extra gear kicks in. I'm like, time to go to work. Like I feel that. Like people are fuel. You know, they're fuel for you. And they're not just fuel, they're also like, they add layers to your understanding. They're an education. You know, you get an education from other people's creativity.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You can grow from them and learn from them. And the same on my end is around people, you know. Luckily, you know, around a good wife and a good life, and surround yourself with that.
God, man, that's everything. If you don't have a good person in your life, you know, Jesus Christ. I have friends that have terrible girlfriends, and it's like you look like you're always at war. You're always in battle. Like a certain percentage of your mind is always dealing with the conflict of your relationship all the time. You know, whether you have a girl who's like always questioning you, or bitter, or starting fights, or needs too much attention, or shits on your work, or whatever the fuck it is, man. I have friends that I see this conflict, and sometimes you see them, they escape, and then like it's like a weight is lifted off their shoulder. They're like a different person. They're like, dude, now it's you. You're back to being you again. You were trapped, and now you're free. You know, and you know, usually they find someone real similar to that girl and fall right back into the trap.
Yeah, I'm totally lucky on that end, and in fact, if anything, I'm the devil in that relationship, where I need to work on myself and get myself better, my attitude better, and my mind right, and you know, come to grips with my own fears and insecurities and stuff. And she's just been a rocket next to me. You know?
That's awesome, man. I could say the same about my wife. I would not be who I am. She's my favorite person to talk to too. Like it's easy to talk to someone who knows you that well, and just there's no conflict like that. It's like it works seamlessly. It works. You know, I mean, you always have to work at it, but it works. And if you don't have that kind of relationship in your life, it's very difficult to get things done. Like, it's hard to get things done if you have a conflict-filled relationship. If you're always like, if you have like 5 good days and 5 bad days, which is a lot of people, you know, it's balanced out. Like, you need 9 good days or 20 good days and 1 bad day. You don't need 5 and 5. Those 5 and 5 relationships are too much fucking work. They rob you of your resources.
Yeah. It's extremely tough because we work together, and we're, you know, dealing with 5 kids together, and then we're doing the business together, and then we're doing the jiu-jitsu school together, and everything's tied in.
The pandemic now.
Yeah, and that's, you know, I heard a lot of the divorce went through the roof in the pandemic, and if any, it's brought us closer, because
it's one or the other.
It is, because it made me reevaluate myself, and I had to look in a mirror for a long time and be like, you know, there's a lot of things you're doing that aren't beneficial here, and especially relationship-wise. And, you know, I really focus heavily on the kids, and we want them to have the best opportunities to do whatever they achieve for. And you know, I would fight with certain things, and it was just in my own head and my own problem. And it was good to, like, talk to people and get things out and try to wrangle.
Well, I always feel like anytime someone's really ambitious or someone's really working hard at something, it's like you have an engine. Right? And the bigger the engine, the more horsepower you have, but also the more difficult it is to keep the traction. It's more difficult to keep the tires on the road because you got this fucking and the car's going sideways and stuff. But if you can get that motherfucker to straighten out, it can go fast.
Right.
You can go further. You can get more shit done. But it's sometimes hard to handle. Just like a muscle car. It's hard to handle. And I think of my brain often like an engine. Like, I got to keep that fucker tuned.
Yeah.
I got to keep it tuned, and I got to keep the traction control on. I got to keep those fucking tires on the road. Because if I just let it go wild, like, bah! If I don't exercise it, if I don't, you know, fucking keep everything in balance, it could go bad. And it's not for everybody. Like, there's a lot of people that I think, like, I look at the way they live their life. I'm like, thank God you don't have my brain. Because if you had my brain, you'd be fucking crazy. You'd never be able to handle it. You'd be off to the races every day. You'd be out of your mind.
Oh yeah,
You'd be
especially your
causing
lifestyle.
trouble. Yes.
I've used that analogy a million times where I'm the motor, but she's the driver, you know, and it's like together we have to make that not break loose on the ground and just drive straight.
You got a pit boss.
Yeah, I got a pit boss. She's the pit boss for sure. You know, and changing the wheels out and keeping the family in order.
Yeah, keeping those fucking tires on the road is hard for a lot of folks with a lot of horsepower. You know, there's a lot of people that I know that are really talented, but they wind up ultimately being very self-destructive. And I think that is a lot of times that's what happens when talent and ambition don't have discipline. So you have the talent, you have ambition, but you have these demons that you give into those demons instead of having a real strict regimen of discipline that you adhere to.
I've been very lucky that I don't deal with the galleries and I won't talk to them because she knows me very well and she's the filter and she's the buffer and she's that wall that stops me from dealing with them, and she turns and deals with them on a much kinder hand, but she deals with my brunt of my dickiness and she, you know, me pitching little bitch tantrums and being like, what do you mean that doesn't look like her? It fucking looks exactly like her. Does she not know what she fucking looks like? And she's like, yes, I know, but she really wants to look sexier. And I go, okay, fine. And then I'll calm down. She'll calm me down and go, listen, just give it one more shot. Come on. And I'm like,
One more pass.
And I go, okay. You know, like, she just calms the savage beast, you know.
Is that the only time that you've ever had to deal with a fucked up gallery? Is that one lady who was stealing
Yeah,
from you?
I mean, you're always suspect, right? You know, listen to this.
Is that because you've gone through that?
So every gallery is struggling and fighting, and not just in this COVID time. This is worse, but they're always pining for like, what's the niche that they have that the other guy doesn't have, you know? And they always, some of the high end, like my New Orleans gallery when I was in there, they would say, we need something that no one else has to say. So when I did a show there in my early days, kids would come into the shows and they would know me from my past life, which was SpongeBob, and they'd say, hey, will you do me a SpongeBob? And I'd be like, absolutely. If a kid's there, I'll draw him up a little SpongeBob in his book or on a piece of paper. I'd use Sharpie and I'd give it to him. Sign it, TW. To Billy. Love, TW. Well, years later, we get a client that was in LA at the time, and they said, hey, my son we framed up the SpongeBob you did for him, and he broke it. Can you reframe it for us? And I have a frame shop. And I'm like, yeah, bring it on in and we'll fix it up. And they brought it in. And the minute I saw it, I go, oh, that's not my writing up top. That's my drawing and that's my signature. And I look at it. Now, I came from the world of using Xerox. So they were Xerox. They taped off some kid's name and they Xeroxed a bunch of SpongeBobs. And they would say to the client, hey, if you buy this, I can get you a SpongeBob from him for your kid. Now, we all do. We all want to do for our kids. We all want to be the superstar. So they would sell it, and then they would write, what's your kid's name? Oh, Joshua. Here you go, Joshua. Blah, blah, blah. And so I got it, and the top name was written in a marker, but the image and the signature was a Xerox. And the Xerox has that shine to it, and it's flat and even, and it's dead level. And I'm like, oh, those motherfuckers. Now, are they really scamming? They're giving it away. They're not selling it. So it's this weird line, right? It's their angle. They're pining for something. So I basically called them up on it and said, don't do that. You know, I'm not making a big stink about this. Just don't do that, because that's not 100% genuine. They're like, well, you are the guy. And I go, I know. It's all legit, but it's not legit, you know?
Yeah.
So that was a tough part. And
well, you are the guy. What does that mean?
Well, you're the guy that did SpongeBob. So it's not like we're saying, here's, this character that you didn't have anything to do with.
Right.
So,
but you didn't write it.
Right. And I didn't write it, and I didn't draw that for that person's name. And so they were just Xeroxing it and then signing them off and pushing them out there. But again, that's just a small example of like the hustle, Nowadays, it's almost impossible to do scammy shit because you have the internet. You have such access to everyone, right? Like you can imagine if someone did something and sent you an email or to someone of your crew and was like, hey, this is happening. Is this you or you? And you're like, nope, within an hour. Nope, not me.
Oh, I've seen that before. I've seen signed photos that are not my signature.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's not my signature.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, and in our day and age of the internet, instant access. It's funny too because a lot of the older people don't understand how easy the access is. How super easy it is to find out if something's fake or real. My dad, he'll try to tell me stuff. And I'm like, Dad, that's not true. And he's like, oh, it is. My friend at the bar told me. And I'm like, here it is, Dad. While we're on the phone, here it is.
That's Jamie.
Yeah, that's Jamie. That's Jamie. You're never going to get some bullshit through, you know?
Well, the old days, man, people could lie about anything.
You had all those people with the fake warriors, fake saying they were SEALs, saying they were
valor.
Stolen valor.
Oh, my God. When they catch guys like on video at the airport, like it's the most embarrassing thing when guys are flying and another soldier runs into them and they look at their suit and they look at them and they just smell something wrong and they start asking questions. Where are you from? Where'd you deploy? What unit?
Yeah. And those numbers don't add up.
No.
You didn't even do enough homework to look up some fake units.
It's just so sad. It's such a sad thing. It's like fake black belts, I mean, there's a lot of those too. That's one of the saddest things when you see a guy get called out on being a fake black belt.
I never encountered any of that.
Don't you remember Eddie found that guy, caught that dude who turned out to be a murderer?
Oh.
You don't remember that story?
I don't.
Yeah.
I was out of that loop.
His name, he had a different name, but he came up with a name. His name was Rafael Torre, and he wrote for Abu Dhabi Combat Club. Remember the website?
Yeah.
ADCC?
Yeah.
Well, Eddie knew him, and he was a black belt, but he said he was a black belt in Japanese jiu-jitsu. It was like one of them weird things. And so Eddie rolled with him one day. And Eddie was like, I remember him telling me, like, it's really confusing. He's like, dude, he didn't know anything. It's so strange. And I go, really? And I go, so do you think he's a black belt? He goes, I just can't believe he's a black belt. It doesn't make any sense. And so he was starting to question whether or not this guy was legit or not. It was very strange. So time goes on. And the guy says that he's going off to go compete in this tournament in Thailand. So he goes and competes in this tournament in Thailand, and he tells Eddie, he goes, hey, I got this guy on a twister. And then we're like, okay. We start thinking, because if you don't know, for folks who don't know, a twister is a complicated submission. It's difficult to set up, and it's hard to get someone in, unless they just know nothing. It's hard. It's hard to, and you got to drill it over and over and over again. And generally speaking, it's hard to get in training, but to get it in a competition, an MMA fight, wow, really hard. And especially if the guy's shown there's a lot of finer points to the twister. There's finer points to the setup. There's finer points to the closing of it. So Eddie's like, this guy's full of shit, man. This guy's full of shit. I'm not believing this. I'm not believing this at all. So time goes on. Eddie winds up calling him out, right? He has a conversation with him on the phone. I'm in the car. We're driving, and Eddie's on the phone with him. And he's saying, he goes, hey, listen, man. He goes, you're not a fucking black belt. He goes, I know you're not a fucking black belt. And he goes, I don't want to hear any of your bullshit. And he goes, you're a fucking liar. I know you're not a black belt. And it's like this really intense conversation. Long story short, this guy winds up murdering this woman's husband. So he's banging this girl. He winds up murdering her husband and then driving around in her car. Okay? It gets crazier. It gets crazier. One of his students, who was also one of Eddie's students, and I am sort of like casual friends with this guy, he tells us that this guy asked him to kill the guy and even brought him a gun to kill the guy and offered him money. And then he winds up killing the guy on his own. Like, this is some crazy shit. So he tells this to us on the phone. Then I get a phone call from the cops who were listening in on the phone call when he tells us that this guy had offered him money to kill the girl's husband. I'm like, this is fucking bananas. So then the cops are on the phone with me. I'm in the green room of Fear Factor. I'm in my trailer, actually, getting ready to go out for Fear Factor. And I get this phone call from the cops. And they said, well, we want to talk to you about this conversation you were having. And I just laid it out to them. I go, well, this is what I know. First of all, I don't know if the guy had really killed anybody because the guy's a liar. And so I explained the whole thing. I'm like, the guy made up a bunch of shit. Right. Here's another thing the guy made up. He had a friend. This is hilarious. Had a friend take him to the woods, and he had a bag, a big duffel bag, like a big ass bag, like a 4-foot long duffel bag, filled with stuff. And he says, "I'm going to compete in a kumite tournament. It's a no rules, no holds barred kumite tournament. I'll be back tomorrow." So the guy drops him off, and then he says, "Come meet me at the spot again tomorrow," or whatever time. So they set a time. So at the time, the next day, now he doesn't have the bag anymore, but he has a trophy that's the same size as the bag. Bro, it's so dumb. It's so dumb. So he says he went into the woods and won this fucking kumite tournament, comes out with this trophy, and was telling this guy that he's like this fucking so the guy's just a full-on pathological liar. Lied about being a black belt, lied about having this fight in Thailand.
Did he actually kill someone?
But actually killed somebody. Yeah, he actually did kill this guy, and now he's in jail for it. Yeah, he's in jail for it right. You could probably find it. His name
my
is,
God.
Yeah, he's in jail for it right now. It choked this guy to death. Yeah, I don't know if he choked him with a thing or with his arms. I don't know what he did, but wound up killing this guy. So I'm explaining to this cops. I go, I don't know what he actually did because the guy's a liar. Like, he's so dumb. He might have said he killed the guy when he didn't.
Right.
Like, he's
or
a
using
full
it
on.
as a.
But it turned out he actually did it. Full on liar. So I just tell the cop the whole story. I go, this is what I know.
And they were listening on the call.
They were listening. They were listening on the conversation.
You remember our boy Lou Sauceda, Lou the cop?
Yes.
So he used to tell me, we would turn on people, the gang members, we would turn on their cell phones and listen to their conversations. We'd listen to everything they were doing.
While their phone's just sitting around.
In their pocket,
Yeah.
whatever. He goes, yeah, we turn them on and listen.
Wow.
And a couple of, we're building out a new jiu-jitsu school over in Dripping Springs, and I got a couple of ex-SEALs that are helping me, and I'm giddy. I want to ask questions, because I'm curious. I'm not a fucking elite warrior. I've never run through Afghanistan with machine guns. And I'm like, hey, what was it like, dude? Did you ever like smoke some people? And they're like, don't know what you're talking about. And they'll just hold their phone up and wave it like this.
Yeah.
They'll go, look at me and shake their head. No, like, I'm not saying a thing.
Well,
and I'm like, and you have Siri? Do you have Siri in your house?
Yeah.
The little cube,
No,
Apple,
I don't have that
Apple.
thing. No.
So I have the little music there.
That motherfucker's listening.
Oh, every morning I wake up. Sometimes I go,
Hey, bitch.
Hey, Siri, what time is it? Right? I always want to know what time it is. Even when I go to pee, it's 5:42. So sometimes I go real soft. I go, hey, Siri, what time is it? The time now is, and it scares me. I'm like, God, she fucking heard that.
She hears everything.
Like, how good is that microphone in there?
It's good.
And at some point, you just accept. Like, I'm not doing anything illegal. I'm not a criminal. So I kind of go, I'm not doing anything. What do I care? But what if I found myself in a situation or someone was telling me something and I'm like, no, you did that. Here's what you got to do, bro.
Right, you can't
And
do
then
that.
next thing you know, my
Yeah.
phone rings and the cops go, yeah, when you were just talking about hide that body in a pig farm and feeding them to pigs, I'm like, I saw it in a movie once. I don't know anything about it.
I have a friend who told me even, what is this, Jamie? The inmate shown is serving a sentence of life without the possibility of parole and is therefore not eligible for parole consideration at this time. Oh, that's Rafael Torre? Yep, that's him.
Oh, my God.
That's the dude. Yeah. And apparently that's not even his real name. Like, he changed his name.
Something else, but that's what he's in under. So.
Yeah,
Oh my God.
he had he made his name to sound out Brazilian. Like you said, he was like half
course, of
Brazilian.
course.
Yeah, story of a fake black belt. That's it right there.
Oh, my God.
I mean, it's all over the place. It was,
Right,
Oh my
fake
God.
black
Written
belt
about
and
again.
convicted murderer. But I remember Eddie being on the phone with him, going, "Dude, you are not a black belt. Like, I don't know why you're fucking lying, but you're fucking lying." And then the guy turns out to be a murderer.
That's scary as fuck.
He wrote for Abu Dhabi Combat Club. Like he would give these like weird interviews where he'd like ask guys like, how many girls have you fucked in the ass? Like crazy questions. Like that was, he was calling it gonzo journalism, but it was just nonsense. It was just, he was just trying to be like crazy but scammed his way into a position where he was writing for, well, obviously like if you're writing for MMA journalism back then, this is, I was on Fear Factor, so we're talking about like 2001, probably-ish, 2002-ish, when it was all happening. That is, the early days of the internet. And like people the internet journalism was not taken seriously. Internet websites were just like an afterthought. It wasn't like they hired like today, like if you write for MMA Junkie or MMA Weekly or any of the like top tier MMA websites, you get like really good writers.
You have a reputation too behind you.
Yeah, they're good writers. It's like you get a career as a writer, you know. These guys were not like that. It was just random. So this dude who's a fake martial artist tricked people into hiring him to write, and they he sent him to these events. This is back, remember when Abu Dhabi first came along, when John Jock was really one of the pioneers of Abu Dhabi, because he was a guy who showed everybody that there was guys who were gi guys who also excelled in no gi, and he was the best. Remember he like tapped Sakurai?
Oh, yeah.
All those guys ran through.
We would have to get
those
on this
dudes.
website to see what the scores were, and Eddie would come in every day with the score sheets and be like, "Look what's happening. Here's what's happening now."
Those videos. Pull up John Jock Machado versus Hayato Sakurai. So for people that don't know, Sakurai at the time was a legend in MMA in Japan. And, for the guys like me, they're the hardcore guys that were really interested in fights from Japan, from Shuto and K1 and, Rings and all these different organizations that were happening in Japan. Like, he was a legend. And to see him, competing against John Jock, and to see John Jock just fucking run through him, we were like, yes! It was a big deal because he was showing control with no-gi that a lot of the Brazilian jiu-jitsu black belts that were used to grabbing collars and sleeves didn't have. But see, John Jock, for people that don't know, was born with only a thumb on his left hand. He only has a thumb, so all of his fingers are missing except his thumb. So Jean-Jacques' game involved more overhooks and underhooks than it did lapel grabs and pinching. So he had a lot of stuff that was immediately transferable to no-gi MMA, unlike a lot of other fighters. You see it anywhere?
I'm typing it in. It's not coming up that way. It might be in a different video or something.
What's that right there?
It's like a highlights or something.
Well, he went up against Yuki Nakai too. You could pull that up. That was another jiu-jitsu match. And Yuki Nakai is another guy who's a fucking legend.
Look at that. Look at young John Jock.
Oh, that's John Jock with a gi. Yuki Nakai fought in Valley Tudo, Japan. Got his fucking eye gouged out. He fought what is that guy that fought in the UFC as well? The karate guy that poked his eyes out. He poked one of his fucking eye out, and he still competed and made it all the way to the finals.
In the old days, was the tournament?
Yeah, it was Japan Valley Tudo. That was the one where Hickson Gracie won it. He won it a couple of years in a row. That was like Gerard Gardeau.
Oh, Gerard. Yeah.
Remember that guy?
Yeah. Big dude. Tall
that guy
dude. Bald.
Poked Yuki Nakai's eye out. Like, Yuki Nakai lost his eye in that match. Like, he's blind in one eye to this day. Yeah.
Oh, my God.
But he was a really highly respected jiu-jitsu guy, and John Jock basically.
Look at that! I know every feeling right there.
Oh yeah,
I know that feeling. I know that guard pass. There. I know the guard pass. I know the struggle you're having with that motherfucker.
You know what's interesting about John Jock too? That he's still capable of rolling with no problems at all. He doesn't have any like major injuries. He had a little bit of a meniscus tear. He was telling me, and he got a cortisone shot in it, but he still rolls.
Oh, I love that man.
He's
done so much for me,
and me
mentally, and just set me on good paths. And had good talks. We've had hour-long talks.
Yeah,
of just there was that period of time. Like you said, when we met, and I'd lost I didn't lose the Nickelodeon job. We went on hiatus. And I was out of work, and I was just like, what am I gonna do? And I would just have talks with him, and he was very generous to me, and he would say, look, I've come teach here, and I was a purple at the time. Come teach here, and you don't have to pay, your fees. and then he took me in, man. He really treated me well. And
he's a great person.
And
he's a great person.
He gave me good guidance. And sometimes when I'm getting out of my head with thoughts or whatever, I just try to think like, what would John Jock do?
See if you can didn't he tap Cal Uno as well?
Yeah, he did from the back on his back and curled him up.
Yeah. See if you can find that. But there's the Abu Dhabi stuff should be around. John Jock versus Sakurai, Machado versus Sakurai. That should be out there. But the Sakurai one was really interesting to me because Sakurai was, he was at the time he was a fucking straight up killer.
I remember when he fought Frank Trigg in that fight.
He had that giant
Pride.
cut.
Yeah, Eddie. We were in the back and we were in the locker rooms, and Eddie kept telling him, "What are you gonna do if you can't take him down? What are you gonna do?" And he was like, "I'll get him down. I'll get him down." He goes, "Man, that's a
Here it is.
class wrestler."
This is Kyle Uno, and Uno is another guy who was at the time was legit
Hunting,
MMA
just hunting him
superstar.
down. There's the overhook.
Yeah.
There it is.
Yep.
Good luck, bud. Getting out of that overhook.
Yeah, all that overhooked on that left side in particular. That's the left
Look at
side
that.
where he had no
Got
fingers.
a hook in. Oh my God. He's gonna. I believe in this he takes his back.
I don't remember what he did, but I remember he tapped him. He tapped everybody.
There it is. There it is. See, he's on his back, curls him back. Oh, he's got that surgical tool.
How did he get to his back?
Well, he's on his back now.
Yeah, but how did he get there? Jamie,
Just
did you
curling,
fast forward?
curling around.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and he gets that arm.
Look at that.
The
Here it
other thing
comes.
is
Here it
that
comes.
with his no hand, the hand that has no fingers, that one always goes under the chin.
Yeah,
easier.
that's a surgical tool.
Yeah.
A surgical.
It slides.
Get
it
in
slides
there.
like a bone.
Get
right
it in
underneath
there.
Your neck. But at the time, this was so impressive because these guys were giving a lot of people fits. There was, a lot of these guys were considered like elite grapplers when it came to MMA. And when to see them just basically fighting for survival against a guy like Jean-Jacques, it opened up a lot of people's eyes. It also opened up a lot of people's eyes as to like what is the most effective way to participate in no-gi jiu-jitsu with the standard jiu-jitsu skills.
Here we go. He's gonna curl him up. Watch, and he's gonna back over. Well, we still got time. He's gonna lay him on his belly. He's gonna arc him.
Yeah.
And just wrench, and he's gonna tap.
Yeah, go forward ahead so we can see the tap. A little bit more there, right there. Oh nope, you already had him. Right there.
One day we were on the side. We were talking on the mats, and he's like,
There it is.
look at that. Oh, okay. This isn't. He didn't have him on his back. It must have been another one. Look at him lay there. Oh, the master.
Jean-Jacques.
Love it. I love that I came out from under him. And I love that it's one. That's my only instructor. I didn't have 5 different schools and travel around or be in the unfortunate, like I was in the military and I had to train here and then I trained there and then I trained here. It's like, that's the school I walked into and I didn't leave till I walked out of black belt.
I actually came to his place third. The first place I went to was Hickson's. But Hickson's was all the way down on Pico, and that was a long haul for me. I was living in North Hollywood. It was
Brutal.
a long drive.
Brutal.
But I knew the last name Gracie. I didn't know jack shit. But then Carlson Gracie opened up on Hawthorne in Hollywood, right down the street from the Comedy Store. And that was when Extreme Fighting was going on. You remember Extreme Fighting? Yeah. And that was when Mario Sperry was there. Yep. And there was so many guys that were coming out. Murillo Bustamante, he was out of there. It was an amazing gym. Carlos Barreto, remember Carlos Barreto?
I don't.
He was out of there. Yeah, early pioneers of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu from Carlson Gracie, and also Vitor. That was when Vitor was 19 years old, and he fought John Hess in Hawaii and fucked him up. And just lit him up with punches. And I remember thinking, like, Jesus Christ, he was 19, and he was built like a fucking pit bull, and the lightning fast hands. And then I was training over there. I was still a white belt. I was a white belt over there. I didn't get my blue belt until I came to Jean-Jacques. And then Vitor went to fight in the UFC. So when he went to fight in the UFC, we were calling him Victor. His name was Victor. Like, I called him Victor a couple times in the UFC broadcast. We called him Victor Gracie. That's what we called him. That was his original. That was the name he was going under. And I remember, I think I fucked it up a few times because they had changed it to Vitor. I was baffled because we'd always called him Victor. Like, I didn't understand what was going on. And when he made his UFC debut, I was training at Carlson Gracie's. But then Carlson's went under. And when Carlson's went under, I needed another place to train, and then I found Jean-Jacques. And that was 98. So I started at 96 at Hickson's, and then I trained at Carlson Gracie's there during 96. And then I think 97-ish is when he went under, and then I waited until 98, and then I started training at Jean-Jacques. No, it might have been 97 I went to Jean-Jacques. It was like right around that time. Like, I just wasn't too much time off But then I got lucky and I found John Jacques.
I'm horrible with the timelines of things.
I might be off by a little bit.
I'm always off on everything.
I might be off by a little bit, but I'm pretty sure 96 was when I first started training at Carlson Gracie's, because it was 97 when I made my UFC debut as a commentator, or as a post-fight interviewer. That was UFC 12 in Dothan, Alabama. That was 97.
Jesus, dude.
Yeah.
I can't believe you remember that.
Yeah, well, I remember that because I was supposed to be in Buffalo, New York, but New York put the kibosh on cage fighting, and so then we had to go to Dothan. And I remember it was the debut of Vitor, Trey Telligman was on that card, Scott Ferozzo.
Dude, you got memory, man.
I have
Dude.
to.
Man, I wish I was smarter, you know. I wish I could, sometimes, you know, I just can't put things together and just get in there.
Well, I take a lot of supplements too.
Yeah, well, I took some Alpha Brain before this.
Yeah, that's.
I'm like,
that's
I got to be on point with Joe.
That's the thing that I take for memory. That and there's some neuro gum I like too.
You know, I was talking with John Jacques one time, and he was telling me how, like, you know, the art career was kind of taking off, and I was doing well, and I had just done the Grammys, and he said, you know, you also need to think about giving back and doing something, you know, and I didn't know what to do with that. And he said there's something. And about a month or two later, my mom, who was an art school teacher in a middle school, public middle school teacher, and her whole life, 35 years, public middle school teacher, art. And she said, I was talking on the phone. My mom was visiting, and I was doing this drawing sketch. And I was talking with the phone, and then I flipped the phone, I took a picture of it, and I sent it to the gallery. And he's like, okay, we sold it. It's gone. And I think I sold it to the gallery, and it's like $300 or something. And my mom goes, did you just sell that drawing you did on the phone for $300? And I go, yeah. And she goes, you know, that's more than my art budget for the entire school, for 30 kids in a class, 6 classes a day. That's more than I get for them. And I'm like, yeah, I was like, really? That's all you get? She's like, yeah, art's getting wiped out all in public schools around the nation. And I thought, oh, fuck. And then I thought of John Jacques' thing, and I'm like, that's a calling, right? And so I started, my wife and I started the Todd White Art Project, 501(c). We take art supplies that we get from all these companies, these big companies. Even Blick steps up, and I say, look, I'm buying it from you. I'm not asking for free, but sell me the student grade quality and sell me a lot of it. And I use it. We buy it when we have extra funds, or we got an extra kick in on something. We buy up school supplies and we donate it. We put packages together for public schools only around the United States, these poor, underfunded schools. And all we said is, you know, school teachers send out a letter to us saying why you want the supplies for your students. And generally, most of them are amazing. They say, you know, I use my own money to buy supplies. We don't have any. And dude, you wouldn't believe it. In this country, we visited schools that had dirt floors. Dirt on the floors.
Where?
They were schools. Dude, Leander was one out here. In Texas? Yes. It was a public school, small population.
Dirt floors?
It was like horrible conditions. And we don't obviously roll in with iPads. We roll in with the watercolor sets, Big Chief tablets, but, you know, 1,000 paints, 1,000 brushes, 1,000 stuff for the kids. Because the one thing that's getting snuffed out heavily is the creative process, the creative exploring in schools. They're just getting rid of it. It's just getting
crazy
gone.
that that's thought to be not important.
Well, everything in your life, from that watch to your iPhone, was created by an artist. A designer designed that. These microphones. It wasn't a suit that designed it. It was an artist, a creative thinker, someone who put together and made it organically beautiful and solid and working. And that's being snuffed out. And so we've done 10 schools throughout the past 7 years of the program, where we get great letters, and we've traveled to Virginia, we've traveled to Ohio, we've done Northern California, Southern California. It was easy when I lived there. I just load up a U-Haul van, drive it down. They'd bring all the kids into the classroom. I do a 30-minute, 45-minute speech to all the kids, tell them, let them know about the two rules of life. You can achieve anything you put your mind to. You know, all these young kids. It doesn't matter. I don't care what color you are. I don't care about anything. Don't buy into it. You can achieve what you put your mind to. And the second thing is you have to have the desire to achieve that. You can't just want it and not put the work in behind it. You have to want it more than anything. I say the 2 wants. You have to want to do that, and you have to want to achieve that. And I believe you can achieve anything you want if you put your mind to it.
For sure. That's a weird thing that isn't taught in school, isn't it?
No,
Isn't it weird that that's not? It's one of the most important things to getting ahead. Like you were saying earlier, that I'll take drive over talent. Because if you have the drive, you can get to talent.
My high school art teacher sent me to a counselor to let the counselor know that I should be an auto mechanic. My high school art teacher
I had the same experience.
told me, maybe you should fix cars. You should, because obviously I wasn't a good student. I was terrible in math and I was terrible in English.
Maybe you should fix cars.
You should concentrate on being a mechanic or an electrical or something with your hands, a trade. But art isn't going to get you where you want to go.
Have you ever seen any of my art?
I have not.
Yeah, I used to draw.
You
And
should
I
come
used
over and hang.
I used to want to be a comic book illustrator.
Do
and,
it.
I have some stuff, but I had. I'll try to find you something. But I had a shitty fucking art teacher, like a real asshole. And what's really interesting is, here's some of my stuff. That's me.
Not terrible.
Yeah, that is from. Isn't that? Where's the full version of that? If you click on it. Yeah.
Listen.
That is from 19. What does it say down there? It says on the corner. The low corner.
Grandma ain't home.
Yeah, but it should say in the
Joe.
image. In the actual image.
Look, you had your
it's-
signature too.
Yeah, it would say. Yeah, that's me too.
Listen, dude.
So
you can-
anyway, I had a terrible art teacher. He was a fucking asshole. That's me too.
Look at
That's
that,
what Bruce Lee
dude.
drew.
And you know, the thing is, the more you're working, the better you get.
Yeah.
Just by pencil time.
I've got a bunch of other ones that I have at home. I have a really cool one that I found recently. There was a Marvin Hagler drawing that I did when I was in high school. It's like 1983 or something like that. But my high school art teacher was a fucking asshole. He was just a bitter, shitty man.
Common.
And I was not the most talented guy in the class. The most talented guy in the class is a guy named John DeVore, who I'm actually friends with. We got in touch with each other recently because I think I brought him up on the podcast and he reached out and sent me an email. And so he told me he was the most talented guy in the class. He told me this fucking asshole said the same thing to him. That asshole made him stop being an artist too. Because he told me that the guy failed him. He failed him like a senior year. I'm like, that is insane because he was so good. He was so talented. Like, you see how good I was? He was better than me. He was really good. And just a dickhead failure of a person who found himself like treating kids like shit. Like, doesn't understand psychology, didn't care, like, didn't like his life, was a failure. Like, I remember him saying, like, he was asking me why I was drawing what I was drawing. I go, well, that's what I like to draw.
Yeah, you like to draw it.
And he was like, well, you're going to have to draw things you don't like to draw. Like, maybe you're going to have to get a job and do ads for diapers. I remember that's what he said, like, draw a diaper. Oh, that's,
See, that's an
that was
old-
when I was wrestling.
There you
I was
go,
in
dude. Look at that.
Look how young we look, 11 years ago. Look at Brian. He's like a little baby.
Dude.
But yeah,
you go.
that was the
Listen.
high school for Newton South High School.
You can make those into shirts, dude.
That was I drew that for the logo for the logo of the school. The mascot was a lion, so I drew like
come on.
I drew the yearbook, like the cover of one of the yearbooks.
You know, you have such a name and recognition that if you ever had a charity or whatever or organization you wanted to donate to, dude, do a drawing. We make a jaclay of it. You sign a numbered edition, and you sell them, and it's yours.
I'm busy, bro.
I know,
I got time for
but I
that
do all
shit.
the work.
You do all the work. I'm not
all the
doing
work.
it.
You just have to draw.
I'm not drawing shit. I'm busy. I can kind of draw now, but not like that. Like I can kind of, like I could probably get back there if I
easily.
started practicing.
All you do is
again
be
and
inspired.
working
You
at
come to
it.
my studio, you'll be drawing.
Okay. Well, I definitely want to come to your studio.
You got to
I
see
want
it.
to check it out.
You got to see it.
I love that area, man. I love Dripping Springs.
It's awesome.
Pretty dope.
It's great. It's
a
got a
dope
lot of
area.
hill country, and people don't understand. There's a lot of rivers. And listen, on the back side of it, there's a whole wet creek.
I can't believe you told me there's elk out there.
Oh, yeah.
Wandering around, free range elk.
I'm gonna send you photos.
That's crazy. There's a
Marcus,
access
send the
deer.
photos.
There's an access deer in my neighborhood.
Oh yeah.
I'm like,
Oh, they're
what the
everywhere.
Like my wife said that this is deer. She goes, it's a big deer, but it has the white dots
Yep.
like a young deer.
Yep.
I go, oh, that's an axis deer.
Yep. Yeah. Well, first of all, there's a lot of exotic game preserves around, and those things get out every
Yeah.
once in a while, and then they breed and they're out there.
Yeah, a buddy of mine was telling me he saw a zebra. He goes, he was driving down the street, he saw a fucking zebra.
Yeah, there's
He's
there's
like, "Why is there a
camels. There's
zebra?"
camels.
You seen camels?
Oh no, I'll drive down the road and show you 2 camels sitting there. There's a lot of llamas, a lot of what are the llamas, and what's the other one that's like a llama, smaller version?
Alpaca.
Alpaca.
Yeah.
A lot of those. Wife wants one of those.
What is she gonna do with
She
an
got this.
alpaca?
Well, we got a farm, sort of. We
Do
got
you?
like 50 chickens. We got
Yeah,
quail.
50 chickens?
Yeah, we got quail.
Oh
we
my-
got
how many coyotes do you have coming to try to eat your chickens?
0.
Really?
0. So I have 2 neighbors who are both like shooters in the military, and they have sniped every coyote. Forget it. They're not around. We do have foxes, and they don't actually like to kill the foxes because they look like cute kittens. And we know where their hub is. It's in a bunch of iron pipes off in this field. And they play around and they run around, but we've never had a chicken gone from a fox yet. But then they go in the coop at night and it gets locked up. So they're not, the foxes don't come around. And I have these 2 massive German shepherds that run the property. And they piss and they smell that everywhere. And I don't have deer problems in my area. There's about 5-10 point bucks on my property that a couple of my jiu-jitsu guys are like, I can take care of that for you.
Take
I'm
care
like,
of it.
you're not getting rid of my bucks. I'm leaving them. Don't shoot them.
You like having them around, don't you?
I do. I like having the animals
Plus,
there.
they're tame.
If
The apocalypse comes,
I'm
every deer in
eating
my
deer all
neighborhood's
day.
fucked.
Yeah.
But if it doesn't come, I like having them.
They're pets.
Yeah, I drive around.
I can get 10 feet from a 10-point buck, driving my truck. I'm like, look at you.
Yeah.
I take pictures of them. Sometimes they jump
There's
and
a
spook.
fucking elk wandering around in Texas. That's crazy.
No, they're everywhere, dude. Look at that. That's like him right there on the right.
That's
Upper right.
wild.
That big ass.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, there you go. Dripping Springs.
Yeah, that's crazy.
They're out
Just
there.
wandering around. Elk are weird out here because they used to be indigenous, right? This used to be an animal that was native to basically most of the country, but they were wiped out around the early 1900s, but probably actually into the late 1800s. But because they were reintroduced, they're thought of it as exotic, even though they're native to the area.
Right.
So there's no hunting season on elk. This is like one of the only places in the country where there's no hunting season on elk. So you could hunt elk the same way you would hunt like a nilgai. Like a nilgai is an animal from Asia? I think nilgais are from Asia. It's a big-ass antelope thing that's the size of an elk. They're real freaky looking. But they hunt them around here 24/7 all year round.
Like Russian boars.
Yeah, you could hunt it because they're considered a non-native species.
My buddy John.
Yeah, Asian antelope. Look at the
Yeah,
size
look
of
at
that fucker. Look at how weird
I've
that
never
thing
seen
looks.
that.
Yeah, on Steve Rinella's show, Meat Eater, they hunted. Look at that
Look at
fucking
that.
thing.
That's
Look at
kind of
the-
cool looking, dude.
Look at the body of that thing. It's so weird.
Looks like Batman.
They're really hard to kill though. If you hit them incorrectly, their vitals. A lot of these Asian animals and many of the African animals, their vitals are tucked in real close to their arms, as opposed to like an elk, their lungs go pretty far back. Because a lot of elk, I wonder why they have big lungs. Maybe because they get in the mountains all the time or stuff like that. They're out there running around. See, that's the area. There's a very small vital area. So if you go back from that, you're fucked. Like you got a wounded animal and you're not going to catch them. See, like look at it. Like that's a good picture. Make that a little larger. That's good enough. See, that's
look
where
at
his
that.
lungs are, and that's where his heart is. Everything is real tucked up, real tight. Whereas with an elk, the lungs really go back as far as the rib cage does. Elks have much larger lungs. So nilgai, like you have to be very accurate, or you can wound them.
You ever go on any of those like?
See, look how far the lungs go back
Look at
for an
that.
elk. Way back.
That get you excited?
Not right now. I got a lot of meat. I'm good for a couple months.
I love it. I love that you're getting the meat for the family and like it.
I give it
there's-
away to a lot of people too.
You do.
love
I hear it. That it's such a man thing to realize that like I provide. I'm providing. I'm getting that. If everything collapsed, I don't need a phone. I got my bow and I can hunt and bring food to the table.
Well, if the shit hits the fan, I'm going to use a rifle. Tell you that right now.
You're stuck up.
Because rifles are guaranteed, especially if you're a good hunter. If you get good at bow hunting, you could really feed your family fairly easily if there's a good supply of game with a rifle. With a bow, it's a different animal because you got to get inside 100 yards.
Yeah.
When you're at 100 yards, it's just begun. You really want to get inside 50. But with a rifle at 100 yards, that's a done deal. That's a close shot.
You ever go on any of those big game hunts, exotic, far away places?
Like Africa or
Yeah.
something? No, never been, no.
You're about, you're not trophy. You're about eating.
Meat.
Yeah, meat.
I mean, I keep the antlers as a trophy.
Yeah,
I mean,
of course.
You saw antlers out there.
I got a great taxidermist here. He'll dress them up, put some fabric on
I
it.
don't like that shit.
You don't like the fabric?
No, the fake.
No,
because-
not the head. He does that too. But
What
he'll
does he
just do
do?
I think they call it a French mount, where it's just a little fabric over the skull, and they put the little
okay.
thing around the horns, and
I'm
it
not
looks,
interested in that either.
and it mounts up
I
there.
like the skull with the antlers.
You like seeing it
attached.
all?
It's called the European mount.
Right.
Yeah, I like that.
My
I
gra-
like the skull. I like to see that's the actual skull from the animal.
My grandparents, I was always hundreds of those little European mounts all in their garage and stuff. And,
yeah.
and I got one to this day that my grandma shot from her sleeping bag, and I hang it above my little kitchen area, and it's my grandma,
Yeah.
granny.
Yeah, those hunting ranches in Texas are the strangest places on earth because there are thousands and thousands of acres, and a lot of them have these exotic animals that are on the verge of extinction in other places, but they're abundant here, like oryx. You know what an oryx
No.
is? Crazy looking animal. Scimitar oryx. It's like a whitish animal with these big, long, black horns. Really cool
Are
looking.
they curly? They curl?
No, they don't curl, but it's like twisty.
Yeah.
Like that's an oryx.
Oh, yeah.
That's what
I
it looks
see
like.
those all the time.
Yeah, those fuckers
I see
are
those all the time.
really difficult to find anywhere else other than Texas. Like an oryx in, I think they're from Africa. I might be wrong. Where's an oryx from?
There's a great road if you're going out to Salt Lick. And
That might be from India.
if you
too.
drive 12 going towards Salt Lick, there's about 5 ranches you'll pass, and you'll see those. You'll see.
Okay, it
you'll
is
see
from
all
Africa,
kinds of
from
things.
Tunisia, Chad, and Niger. So those animals in their native habitat are very close to extinction. They're very, yeah. Here it goes. Hundreds of thousands of desert-adapted antelopes roam the Sahara and regions of Sahel. How do you say that? Sahel, regions of northern Africa, a vast desert, due to human disturbance, overhunting, drought, and loss of food because of excessive livestock grazing, the scimitar horned oryx is now extinct in the wild. Those surveys show that Niger and Chad may have appropriate habitat for reintroduction, and some reintroduction have begun in Tunisia. So the wild ones, the original ones that were there, are now gone, but there's a fuckload of them here in Texas.
Yeah. Well, you got the land. You can do it. I mean, that's what I was talking with you about your new idea of looking for
Yeah,
property.
I'm gonna get a big spot.
You should.
out here.
You should. And
Well,
you should.
I want to get a big spot for the podcast too, where I can
That's
take
what I'm
people
saying.
and do crazy shit.
Well, when you come to my facility and see, like, you'll be like, how much for this? Like,
Yeah.
it's got everything. We got a full pistol range, rifle range set up out there.
Do you?
I'll let you shoot all kinds
Oh,
of stuff.
that's right. You were telling me.
Yes.
Do you have a well too?
We don't, because the water's shit.
Is it?
It's a horrible, hard water. So we're on rain water, but we fill up 60,000
What
gallon
is
tanks.
hard water? What
Like
does that mean? It
full of
just says
minerals.
Minerals. But isn't that good for you?
I doubt it, because it'll turn all your dishes white.
Right. But isn't the water, like drinking that water, isn't it good for you? Water
I
with
can't imagine. I
minerals?
think it'd make fucking calcium deposits all in your guts and like
Oh,
piss
Jesus.
crystals.
Piss crystals.
I don't think it's good, dude.
Really?
Yeah. But I'll tell you what, the rainwater we catch off of our 2 massive roofs, we'll fill up 60,000 gallons with just a small rain.
Really?
Yeah, we never run out of water. And if you do, you can buy more. It's cheap.
Right.
They'll come and fill it, put 2,000 gallons in.
Jamie, find out if hard water.
It says it's not a health hazard, but I'm trying to see like what the badness is.
I don't want crystals in my dick, bro.
You might want to check the arsenic level. It says.
Yeah, dude.
There's a lot of different minerals.
You got to drill 1,000 feet to get good water out there.
Really?
1,000. Normal wells are about
1,000
700.
feet is so far.
Normal wells are about 700.
Really?
Yeah. 1,000 feet down
1,000 feet. That's like
to hit.
fucking
That's
3.5
so what you have out
football
there,
fields,
you
isn't
have
it?
the Infinity. No, the Trinity. I'm sorry, the Trinity wells, Trinity Spring. That's what you're going to. So you have a lot of signs out there that say Trinity's not infinity, and they don't like all the new development happening and tapping into those. and
People are tapping
tapping
into
in,
the water.
yeah. And wells go dry. People are like, yeah, well, that went dry like 4 years ago because the water dropped and the hole's down here, and it's like
Right.
they got to push it down deeper to straw.
Right. Wells always remind me of people. No, you know what it reminds me of? Borat. Throw the Jew down the well,
There is some
so my country can be free.
some of our favorite epidemiological studies that show potential correlations between hard water and lower cardiovascular disease mortality because of all of the like calcium
Minerals.
and magnesium you're getting through that.
Son, I'm getting healthy.
But
But
it may be, it's just, it's epidemiological.
might be bullshit.
So it could
Right.
be, it's whatever.
Never know. Could be just healthy people wind up living in that rural landscape and have lower cardiovascular health. Yeah,
Drinking
or
water,
better.
you're already probably doing
Yeah,
better than most
there you go. Well, Todd White, let's wrap this fucking
Yeah,
bitch
let's
up,
get
bring
out.
it home. Tell people, is artofwhite.com, is that your website?
Artofwhite.com is my website. Art of White is my Instagram. Jump on there. I could use some followers.
Yeah,
I
get
am
on there.
horrible. I'm horrible about social media. I'm horrible about posting.
That's probably good.
People yell at me all the time. They're like, you don't fucking post enough. You
That's
don't do
probably
this.
good,
You don't
dude.
do that.
It's
And I'm
probably
like,
good.
you know, for
Better
me,
to be that than to be too active.
for me, I'm always like, I only want to post if I have something fun or cool or art to share. I don't need to post, look at this car wash, isn't it clean? Like, I don't want to be that dude, you know? And I've unfollowed people. Like, I followed a couple of people that I would like, I like musicians that I love. And I'm like, I follow them. And like every other post is like, oh, today my cat is, look at him. And I'm like, done. I'm out. I'm out. I don't want to see your cat. I don't want to see your pussy. I don't want to see none of it. I'm out.
Wow. Well, everybody's different. Some
Yeah.
people want to see everything.
I know. I don't like it.
What
So-
kind of vitamins you taking?
Yeah,
Show me
yeah.
your daily stack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pocket dump. Show us your pocket dump. I think
Oh, yeah. What's your daily carry?
I'm not going to show you.
All right. Well, listen, brother. I'm happy you initially inspired me to come out here. You were the first person to plant the seed.
Thank you,
legitimately.
man. I'm glad I planted a seed in you.
Yeah, for sure. Legitimately.
We weren't
In a
even
good way.
wrestling.
Yeah, crazy. It just happens.
So we're going to get you out to the school. We got our
Yeah.
school in Dripping Springs. That's
Sounds
going to
good,
be
dude.
kicked up and opened on January 4th.
That's when it's going to be
Brand new
fully-
school, yeah.
That's the place you built. I watched that on your Instagram.
So-
I watched that all built. You built the steel structure.
That's
whole
the
thing.
compound. That's only
Oh.
for elite friends and people. That's the
so you have
private training
two
facility.
Different training
Yeah.
facilities.
So that's where you and the SEALs will come over, and Jocko will be there. Jocko's already came over there.
Nice.
And we're going to start a little run, shoot, fight class where we roll around. We do a mile, maybe 2 mile run on my property. I have it all beautiful DG, decomposed granite path trails. Terrain, up, down, up, down. And you run right to your station. You pick up your weapon and you do a shooting course. And it's almost like scored like a CrossFit, right? Like instead, so it's every week you get to do it again, and it may change. We'll come up with silly names, and it's head up by all ex-SEALs.
That's a great idea.
And so it's really great because let me tell you, fight for 30 minutes, no break. Okay, get a partner equal. Look, we got great people we train with. There's no douchebags where they're like, I'm going to rip your head off for 30 minutes. It's like you're rolling. They'll give, they'll take, they'll give, they'll take. You're sweating, you're working, your forearms are at a pump. Bell goes off, drop your gi top, keep your gi pants on, run 2 miles. Slide your shoes on right there. Put your shoes on, run 2 mile loop. It's a hard 2 miles. It's not an easy. It's up terrain, downhill, uphill. Run it, run right to your station at the shooting range. The guy's sitting there with a timer, go. Boom, shoot your plates. Bing, 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 bing.
And then you get
boom.
scored.
And you get scored. What's your misses? What's your time on the shoot? And then put your weapon down, and there's your score. And it goes on a logboard. And so we do that. And, you know, I'm no experts in firearms, but I am a student. And we have guys that come out and they train with us and they teach us up close shooting. They teach us push off shooting, falling down on your back shooting through your legs.
Don't shoot your feet.
Don't shoot your knees. And it's really awesome to get that training from those guys. And why? All because we're on our own property in Texas and it's private land. We don't have to worry about shit. And you get awesome people. You attract that person. We were starting to get a little too big with some of those classes. So for a regular jiu-jitsu, we opened up a new school in Dripping up right off 290. And it's going to be up and running. I mean, I'm leaving here and going there to work. And it's a mimic of that school. Huge mats and great people.
Beautiful.
And we want you there.
All right. It's in.
All right,
It's
brother.
on. Todd White, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Joe Rogan.
My pleasure. Goodbye, everybody. See you.